Metallica, here they come, the kings of metal.
So fucking what?
Hey everybody, I'm Lizzie.
And I'm Joe. We're from the band Hailstorm.
And you're listening to Middle Up Your Podcast.
We make this cool.
Welcome to Metal Up Your Podcast. I'm Ethan Look.
And I'm Clint Wells.
This is episode 130, and we're going to be talking to our friend Dan Kanter, who we've mentioned a bunch on the show. He won a Justice box set. Mm-hmm. He's done all sorts of amazing stuff in music.
Yeah, I mean, his resume is totally insane. He's a huge Metallica fan, and he's a big Metal Up Your Podcast fan.
Yeah, that's kind of how we got to know him. I mean, he was just someone that listened to the show and sent us an email. And I think one of our listeners sent us a clip of him when he worked with Justin Bieber, and It was just like, wait a second. I think a lot of you guys listening will be surprised when we get into the conversation with Dan about how these two worlds collided.
Two worlds colliding.
But, also to kind of open up your mind about, someone you might think, oh, they're not into Metallica. They've played for Justin Bieber. They play for Julia Michaels. They've co-written songs with all these pop artists and production stuff. There's no way they're a Metallica fan, but no, he's no joke. I mean, he's seen over 20 shows.
You reminded me when you said open up your mind of that scene in Total Recall. Open your mind to me, Quaid.
Open your mind, Quaid.
Open your mind. I'm just going to read a little bit of his Wikipedia page to contextualize people for what he's done. I mean, if you've been near a radio in the last 10 years, you've heard something that Dan's done.
Right.
It says he's a multi-instrumentalist, music director, performance coach, and multi-platinum selling songwriter from Toronto. He was the MD and lead guitar player for Justin Bieber for 8 years.
Yeah.
He wrote and produced numerous songs and albums, most notably co-writing and co-producing the song Be Alright on Bieber's album Believe, co-producing Bieber's albums My World's Acoustic and Believe Acoustic. He directed and performed, listen to this list of people: Stevie Wonder, Carlos Santana, Miley Cyrus, Shawn Mendes, Drake, Bob Weir of the Grateful Dead, of course, Ariana Grande, Logic, the rapper, Usher, Julia Michaels, Keith Urban, Mike Gordon, John Fishman of Phish, and he's a huge Phish fan.
Oh, yeah.
He was a judge on the Canadian version of American Idol singing competition called The Next Star, the CBC music competition TV show Searchlight, and he's the host of the CBC show Guitars in Hand with Dan Kanter.
It's crazy. I mean, yeah, his resume is ridiculous. I mean, it's the kind of resume that, like, a lot of people that especially come to Nashville, like, hope to have one day. And
Absolutely.
Dan's in his 30s and has that kind of resume. I mean, it's pretty insane.
And he's a great guitar player, too. And when he came through playing with Julia Michaels, opening for Pink, he got me some tickets. My wife and I went and saw it. And it was just an amazing show. And
yeah.
You all are going to hear from him soon, recently.
You're going to hear from him
soonish.
recently.
And you're going to hear what a cool cat he is and how much he loves music, how much he loves Metallica. He got to hang out with Lars after the Copenhagen show, which we're going to talk about. He's gotten to meet James a few times.
Yeah, I mean, his level of fandom is deep. I mean, it's not just like he has all the records and he goes to a show here and there. I mean, like I said, he's met the guys a couple of times. He's been to 20-plus shows. He knows his stuff. He is a Metallica fan through and through.
Yeah, I can't wait for everyone to hear the interview. We just got off the phone with him, and it was a lovely conversation.
Recently.
Before... God damn it. I was going to edit that out, but now that it's becoming a thing, we'll just leave it.
It's recently become a thing.
You motherfucker. All right, before we get to talking with our friend Dan, we're going to do a little bit of the housekeeping. We're on iTunes and Patreon. You can listen wherever you hear the stuff, but it really goes a long way if you take the time to leave us a positive review on iTunes. We've got several hundred over there, and I want to thank everyone that's already left a review. It really goes a long way for us. There's a lot of podcasts out there. There's a lot of Metallica podcasts out there.
Right.
So when people are click-clacking their way through and trying to figure out where to camp out for a minute, those reviews give them a good pointer, a good map for where to start. If you want to support the show on a deeper level, like our friend Dan Kanter does, you can go to patreon.com/metalupyourpodcast. You're going to hear a commercial about that later. At the bare minimum, we give away a bunch of stuff, like the box sets.
Yeah.
We just gave out 2 tickets to S&M 2. And you're going to be eligible for all sorts of gifts and stuff that we give away over there. At the very minimum, we give you a shout out on the show. We got a bunch of new patrons.
Yeah.
Do you want to read some of these?
Yeah, sure. We got Michael X. Krusty, Nick Cohn, Charlotte Blythe, Paul Nuremberg,
Daniel Lundstrom, Austin Maddox, and Mike Garcia increased his pledge.
You guys, wow.
You guys make the Metal Up Your Podcast machine go. You all know that by now, how grateful we are for all of your support.
That's right.
And I would encourage you, if you're able to, it's basically $5 a month, which isn't much. I support other podcasts with that level of patronage. And anything cool we're able to do, it's really possible because of that. Whether it's making T-shirts or making these Cover Our World Black EPs, which, by the way, Cover Our World Blackened Volume 3 is basically one day away from being done.
Yep. My songs have gotten the green light. You've got a couple of quick little notes, I think.
Yep. Our friend Nathan Thomas is mixing them today. He's putting the final mixes today.
Yeah.
We finalized the artwork. And to get everyone excited, I think we're going to drop this on August 1st. Which is just in a few weeks.
To the patrons, yeah.
So I think for the next few weeks, we're going to play 2 songs each.
Right, so this episode, I think we're going to play each of our Nirvana songs.
Right. The first 2 volumes of Cover Our Blackened, which are available anywhere you get music, we encourage you to buy it from our website or iTunes, but you can also stream it on Spotify or whatever the fuck. Those were all Metallica covers where we took largely deep cuts, reimagined them, slowed them down, made them reggae, changed them all up as a way to say thank you to the patrons. The patrons get those exclusively until the next volume comes out. So the patrons are the only ones who are going to get Volume 3 until Volume 4 is ready. Right,
exactly. And this one we decided something different just for fun. I mean, we went with like basically a theme of like kind of early to mid 90s. I hate to use the word grunge era because all those bands sound so different, but you know, that era of the early 90s, really it's the Seattle sound.
Well, so we each did a Soundgarden song, a Pearl Jam song, a Nirvana song, and an Alice in Chains song. We're going to play our 2 Nirvana songs on today's episode. After the emails, you'll hear Ethan's, which you did Territorial Pissing.
That's right, yeah.
What a name. And then we'll end out the episode with my version of Come As You Are, and I tacked on Planet Caravan onto my version because it was in the same key and had the same vibe.
Right.
That's going to be exciting. So stick around to hear that. If you like what you hear, go sign up and be a patron, and you will get Cover All Black in Volume 3 the day it drops. You'll also get Volumes 1 and 2 for free. You'll get Lunar Satan demos, which the Lunar Satan record is shaping up for the fall.
Yeah, man.
And we're looking at putting it on vinyl, which is going to be dope. That would
be so awesome.
You also can go to our website, metalupyourpodcast.com. We have our Dagger logo shirts and our OG logo shirts. Those are easy ways to support the show, too. The $20, you get a shirt. Maybe you don't want to become a patron, but if you want to buy an EP and a shirt, that goes a long way also. We'd like to check in with the Metal Up Your Podcast family that's becoming and has become one of the coolest parts of this job is all of the friends that we've made. Like Dan Kanter, for example, doing the show. And we read 5 emails a week. We're going to do that right now in what we like to call the Email Corner.
Our first email is from just plain old Raymond. He says, my guys, my goodness, the Lunar Satan Jam on episode 129 is an absolute monster. I was wondering if you're doing anything else to raise funds for the album.
Well, thank you, Raymond. I'm glad you dig the song. I looked into this thing called Q. I can't even think of what the company's called actually right now.
Oh, it's called Crate, spelled with a Q.
Q-Rates?
Right?
Yeah,
Q-Rates. Yeah.
It's basically a way to press vinyl without having to pay anything up front. So what I'm going to do is when the album's ready to rock, I'm going to do everything through them. It's kind of the way we do our T-shirts through EverPress. Yeah. And you basically do pre-orders, and I think we have to sell 100 before they'll press the vinyl.
Yeah, so if we get 100, if however many want this on vinyl, and we can get 100 copies ready to go, then they'll start pressing it.
And I'm trying to keep the cost, like I'm not trying to make money off of this.
Of course not, yeah.
And, you know, I think all of our listeners know that. What I want more than anything is just for our fans and Lunar Satan fans to have this.
I'll pre-order one.
So I'm trying to keep the cost super low, but just, you know, the way to go about this is just it you know, to print the cover, which Nick Makoviak's helping me do a bitchin' cover, to make sure that the sleeve is of good quality, that there's a spine. There's all these, like, I don't want to make a shitty thing.
No, of course not.
So from the mock-up that I've done, it's looking like it's going to be around $20.
Yeah. Well, and just so everyone knows, I mean, you know, what are you doing, 5 songs, EP?
It's going to be 6 songs, yeah.
Okay, 6 songs to an EP. I mean, yeah, initially maybe $20 sounds like that's a lot for an EP, but I mean the cost of vinyl is not cheap. I did $300 of my last record, and per album, the cost of that is almost $8. Now, less than that, the cost is going to go up. Obviously, the more you order, the less, the more the cost goes down. So
yeah, I mean, the cost for these. So if I'm selling them for 20, honestly, the cost is like around $17.
Yeah, well, especially because you're not paying out of pocket,
Exactly.
So there's not really any money to be made on this. It's just for the pure enjoyment of people to have a tangible copy of the Lunar Satan EP in their hands.
And this is going to be a total souvenir of this podcast. It's going to be something you can touch and hold. That was, the idea for the band happened on the podcast.
Right, yeah.
I wrote it while we were doing the podcast, and once they're gone, and it'll be something I can give my kid later that you can put on. By the way, also, good news, the songs are bitchin'.
Yeah.
So at least Raymond thinks so.
We got one. You have 2 pre-orders, me and Raymond.
I think we can get to 100, and I think if we exceed 100, they'll press whatever it is. So
yeah, it has minimum is 100.
Right. So if you guys can just be thinking about that in the fall, it will be around $20. But that's because I'm having it mastered for vinyl, and I'm trying to see if I can do a colored vinyl.
Yeah, that'd
which
be
would be
cool.
really cool. And anyway, I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too.
Thanks, Raymond. Paul Nuremberg is a new patron, by the way. Says, "Hi, guys. I felt so guilty for listening to you guys for so long and not interacting or supporting the show. That's old news now. After all, it does feel like you're some of my old-time buddies. It's also worth mentioning how much you've improved the show in terms of fun, knowledge, and geekiness. You guys have a really amazing synergy. So much fun to listen to you. Always get looks after a big laugh in planes. I really appreciate your initiative for making such a great show. I'm a father of 3 working offshore in drilling rigs. I have a band, and I know how difficult it is to put in all this effort. I love Metal Up. God bless you guys. Paul."
That's cool.
P.S. If you guys are one day considering coming to Vienna, your room is ready in my house. We can jam in my garage studio, and I can cook some Brazilian and Austrian food.
Wow, that
Holy
sounds
shit.
delightful.
That's almost worth buying the plane ticket right now.
Vienna is. Have you been to Vienna ever?
I have not been. Wait, no, I have not.
Austria, it is one of the most beautiful cities I've ever been to. I loved it there.
In Vienna, we have the most beautiful bitches.
And we still have Arnold Schwarzenegger he's from Austria as well.
Mr. Universe
This
pumped
is
me
not
up.
an Austrian accent.
No, it's Torben.
Yeah.
It's not a tumor.
Get your ass to Mars.
Get your ass to Mars. Open your mind, Quaid. All right.
Oh, man. Next email is from Daniel Lundstrom. It says, "Hey, guys, my name is Daniel. Big fan of the podcast. Been listening for a little over a year now. And I recently became a patron. Been a Metallica fan since 2003, and I've seen them live 6 times. The most recent was in Gothenburg just yesterday. First gig I saw with the boys was back in 2007 in Stockholm, when I also won a meet and greet pass, which was really cool. I even ended up on their
Met on tour video.
Oh, Met on tour. I was like, what is this word?
You silly goose.
Well, there's no space in there, whatever. The Met on tour. I was like, Minotaur video.
I was recently featured on a Minotaur video.
Have you seen it? It's amazing.
Half man, half donkey.
Lives on Mars. The Met on tour video for that day, and it was insane. Anyways, just wanted to say, love the podcast so much. Keep doing what you do. Best podcast out there. Thanks, Daniel from Sweden,
Las Vegas,
Nevada, New Jersey.
Thanks, dude. Really appreciate that. Sasha Middleman, who you recently did a Metal Tales with,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, she was awesome.
So she wrote in, and I think she has some follow-up stuff from your episode with Sasha.
Okay.
By the way, the Metal Tales from the Road series is something that we do exclusively with patrons, where you can sign up for a show that you're going to on the current Worldwide European tour. We still have some dates available in Australia and New Zealand, which, by the way, I tapped old Sarah Sobek to do some, because she's going to be going. She has a black ticket for the Australian and New Zealand gigs.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But even if you miss out on this current tour, when the tour is over, we're going to be doing Metal Tales from the Road for any show you've been to in the past. We already have a list that's like 25 people long. Just another incentive for the Patreon over there.
That's right.
Another thing that we did today that you're going to hear is whenever we have a guest like Dan Kanter or Hailstorm or Jay Weinberg of Slipknot, Michael Lago, Michael Wagner, we let our patrons ask them questions.
Right, yeah.
So Ray Burton, we did it also, yeah. And that's going to, when we do inevitably have Lars on, for example, we are going to let the patrons ask the boys questions.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So that's just another reason to go get on the train, support the show, and another way that we can say thank you. So Sasha writes in, "Hey, Clint and Ethan, when I was on Metal Tales last month, I was assigned to revisit the video to Until It Sleeps and the Loads. I have completed these tasks."
Interesting.
She says, "I will say I've come around to really like Until It Sleeps by way of S&M. I didn't like it in 96 because it sounded derivative of grunge. However, like a number of Metallica songs, it sounds way better performed live. Rewatching the video, I still find the squirming gold thing makes me uncomfortable," which I would argue is the the goal of that scene.
Yeah, I think so.
I wonder why I still find that gold thing to be so repulsive. I suppose 23 years later, I can accept Kirk's Dave Navarro look, the excessive rubbing, and the general Bjorkiness, but the video would be way better if Lars was wearing the red guy tights and got stuffed into the frog's mouth. He kind of gets painted red, but it isn't clear if he's getting eaten by the frog or one of the other red guys. As much as I appreciate Lars, I would be amused by seeing him get stuffed in a frog's mouth. Well, who wouldn't?
That sounds very Gwar.
It is very Gwar,
You know?
except instead of a frog, it's like a weird eel with teeth, a mouth of teeth, and you're getting probably sucked into hell.
Sounds like you're describing a demagogue from Stranger Things. I just finished season 2 last night. I got to get on season 3 now.
I haven't seen season 3 yet.
I don't know why I slept on season 2 and I just finished it last night. I'm like, God, this is such a good show.
My
fun.
wife reminded me. I was like, hey, season 3's out, and she's like, you realize every time we watch this, we say we don't like it. I was like, oh yeah, you're right. We always get to the end of it, we're like, did we like that? And we kind of are like, nah.
Yeah. Ah, man, I've been having fun watching it.
You're in good company because it's a huge, huge hit.
Oh, yeah,
everyone loves
is.
it.
There is a scene in the new one where we get a little Four Horsemen in the soundtrack.
Well, and one of the dudes has a Kill 'Em All poster in his bedroom.
That's the scene, yeah.
Oh, okay, right
Yeah.
on, cool. So he's listening to Four Horsemen?
He's listening to Four Horsemen, yeah.
Get it, the Horsemen of the Apocalypse, the Upside Down,
The Upside
Stranger
Down.
Things.
Stranger Things.
You know what I mean? She says, I spent some time listening to The Load. Certain songs I wasn't feeling in the 90s sound better to me now that I've heard them live. Memory is fantastic. Fuel doesn't suck. There are a few songs I kind of like listening to just because it's Metallica, and there are still a few that are totally cringy to me. I'll keep them in my shuffle rotation to see what grows on me. Thank you for encouraging me to give The Loads another chance. I still wish to sweep Saint Anger under the rug, however. Fair enough.
Okay.
Back to my conversation with Ethan about what I would say if I encountered James Hetfield on the chairlift or at a gas station in Vail. She says it could happen. I have a new plan. I will give an elevator pitch proposing the next tour opening acts, Lunar Satan and Haunt. I'm loving Trevor William Church's Shred right now. If that comes to be, you're welcome. Well, I guess we heard it here first. If Sasha gets me on a Metallica tour with Lunar Satan, which you're going to play drums in, by the way.
I was going to say, I better be on stage with that.
Or maybe you'll just be a writhing gold thing. Maybe I'll just take the
Maybe I
Hieronymus
could be
Bosch vibe of the Until It Sleeps video, and I'll have you shoved into a frog's mouth or something.
Or I could dress up as like a frog/demagogue thing and like come around stage and eat everyone as the show is ending or something.
I would love for the show, honestly, to end with you being a frog demagogue and you eat all the band members one by one.
And there's just a bunch of fake blood all over
And
the
then
stage.
you spit out the bones.
Perfect.
Following my appearance on Metal Tales, I've received some friendly overtures from other female fans of the show. This is super exciting to me. As I mentioned, I've always wanted female metal friends, so thank you for that. I hope to meet them in real life at S&M 2. Clint, it looks like you might be coming to Boulder on July 20th. If that's so, I'd love to swing by and say what's up. I live just about a mile from the Fox. Best, Sasha.
Oh, you're at the Fox?
I haven't seen that. I guess we are at the Fox, which is...
There's a lot of Fox theaters around this country.
That's really nice that we're going to be there, though, because when in my early 20s and my first sort of rock touring, the Fox was one of the first clubs I ever played in Colorado.
Oh, nice. That's awesome.
So I guess it'll be fun to do full circle. We must be doing like a radio thing or something.
That's a great. It's theater's on a great street too. There's a bunch of cool bars and restaurants around.
There's a great record store right across the street.
Yeah.
Where I remember the last time I went there, we weren't playing the Fox, but we were in Boulder, and I went down. It's like this sub record store.
Yeah.
And I was just really heavy into my Dave Matthews thing.
Right.
So I was on a kick that month or two. Every time I went into a store, because there's always crazy shit hanging on the walls.
Yeah,
and
totally.
I was like, hey man, you got anything? I said, you got anything like with pentagrams or evil or occult or anything with Dave Matthews? And those are the two things. And he didn't have anything he could give me, but he did have, I guess Dave Matthews, before Under the Table and Dreaming came out, did an in-store at his place.
That's cool.
So he had all these pictures of Dave Matthews from like 1993.
Wow.
And then he told me this crazy story about David Gray did an in-store, and Dave Matthews was a huge David Gray fan. So David Gray came as a fan to the in-store.
Oh, wow.
Because I guess they were nearby touring.
Wait,
Anyway,
so David Gray came to the...
So Dave Matthews played an in-store.
Oh, and David Gray came to it.
No.
Oh, opposite.
And that's how they... No.
Oh, my gosh.
Let's listen. Let's work on listening, although I might not be telling the story well. Dave played an in-store. I'm Dave Matthews playing Dave Matthews songs. That's how he met this guy.
Okay.
Dave Matthews also concurrently is a huge David Gray fan. And when David Gray came to do an in-store, Dave Matthews came as a fan. Because the guy hit him up and said, hey, David Gray's coming. You should check it out. You're in the area. So Dave came in just to be a fan.
Just to go crash
and
into him.
he had pictures of that day. He had crashed right into him.
That's awesome.
Sasha, I would love to hang out with you in Boulder whenever we're there. So just for any of you guys who want to come to a show or you see that we're touring somewhere, Ethan and I love saying hi, having a beer. More times than not, I've bought listeners of the show a beer.
Right.
Or invited them on the bus and gave them beer. So just, I guess what I usually tell people is to send me an email like the day before.
Right, yeah. If it's like a month or two out, sometimes we can just forget it. That email gets kind of lost in the shuffle. But you hit us up a day or two before. I don't currently have any upcoming tour dates per se. I won't need to be this weekend at a festival in East Tennessee, but I'm not really sure what I'm doing this fall yet. So,
okay, cool. Well, thanks, Sasha.
Last email's from, it's our good friend Darren Edwards.
What up, Darren?
He says, hey, guys,
props.
Props or probs? Props to you both. Really enjoyed the last couple Metal Tales. Ethan, thanks for the kind words in the Andy/London episode. I met Andy the day after he did the episode, and he was really happy to have done it. Great episode. Hope you guys are well. Great work on the podcast. You guys are doing a killer job as always. Cheers, Darren. That's awesome. Well, yeah, Andy, who had on the episode, who lives in London, yeah, it was really cool. He also works for Warner Music and was like, hey, Darren Edwards is going to be in town tomorrow. We're going to meet and stuff. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. So
we have a really wonderful episode with Darren Edwards. He was in town. He lives in Sweden, but he works with Warner, and so he was here doing some promo for, what's the band? Native... Rival Sons.
Rival Sons, yeah.
And he came to the studio. Well, first of all, I went and had coffee with him here in Donaldson, and just an amazing dude, super sweet, easy to talk to, a family man, a music lover. And then the next time he was in the States doing promo, we had him come to the studio. And
that's awesome.
We just had a really wonderful talk about the music industry.
Such a good guy, too. I mean,
and he sends us vinyl often. Like he sent us maybe 2 or 3 care packages of vinyl.
I'm still. He's got to find the what is it? Trojan old school ska reggae stuff, Trojan record stuff. They're under the Warner umbrella.
Oh, cool.
He said he hooked me up some of that stuff.
I credit Darren because one of the records he sent me was the new Alice in Chains record, Rainier Fog, and
it's so good.
I kind of have not checked any of that out, and then I was in my studio one night and put that record on, and I've since become a huge fan of that record.
I had it on my turntable last night.
Anyway, so thanks so much to Darren. He's a big supporter of the show. Real sweet dude.
He's awesome, man.
Okay, metalupyourpodcastshow@gmail.com. You can write into us. We read every email personally. We read 5 on the show. Maybe we'll read yours. I don't know.
Who knows?
I can't see the future.
But it's on Mars.
Now, we're going to leave the email corner and in a bit of an unusual left turn, and we're going to listen to Ethan's wonderful cover of Territorial Pissings.
That's right.
I do not like saying that song title.
It's a weird song title, Territorial Pissings, but it's always been one of my favorite Nirvana songs off Nevermind. And I kind of went, the Clint route on these covers. I went the more mellow, kind of chill-ish route, but I couldn't help but throw in a pretty fuzzed-out lead at the end. It's not in the original song. I just decided to make up a solo.
You were just treating yourself.
Just treating myself to a little candy.
All right, well, check this out. This is from the forthcoming Cover Our World Black in Volume 3. You're going to hear a commercial for the Patreon after that. That's how you get involved. That's how you get copies of these EPs. And then we're going to have a conversation with our friend Dan Kanter.
That's right.
All right, peace.
Well,
Hey, it's Clint from Metal Up Your Podcast, and we hope you're enjoying the Metal Tales from the Road series. If you've been keeping up with us, then you already know that we've covered every stop on the 2018-2019 North American Arena Tour, and we look forward to catching up with all of our European friends later this year on the Stadium Tour overseas. And there's more! After the Stadium Tour, we are continuing the Metal Tales series for any Metallica show in the past. Maybe you saw one of the Orion festivals. Maybe you were at the Channel in 1984 and Cliff Burton bought you a beer. Maybe you were at one of the 30th anniversary shows, or you just saw a regular-ass show in North Dakota somewhere. We want to hear from you. Since Ethan and I started Metal Up Your Podcast, we've wanted to find a way for listeners to call in and share their stories. Well, this is it. To make yourself eligible for a future or past Metal Tales episode, please consider joining us on Patreon. For $5 a month, you not only get to come on the show as a guest, you also get both of our Cover Our World Blackened EPs, monthly giveaways like deluxe box sets, rare vinyl, posters, and other goodies. You get early access to our YouTube videos, and we also let you ask our guests, like Ray Burton, Michael Wagner, Hailstorm, members of Slipknot, your very own questions. For what essentially amounts to 2 cups of coffee a month, you can ensure that Metal Up Your Podcast continues to grow in quality and content. For any of you on the ride with us, we love you, we thank you, peace and adios. Well, here we are with our friend Dan Kanter, who just got off a plane, I'm told. And
yes.
Thanks for being here with us today, man. It's good to finally have you on the show.
Right on. Thank you, guys. It's an honor to finally be on the show. And I just want to say before we start, I know I texted you guys this, but thank you so much for all you do. You know, I didn't think it was possible to love Metallica or know more about Metallica, but you guys have been my tour guide through rediscovering my favorite band. And this weekend in Copenhagen, there were so many moments during the show where I was laughing in my head at you guys, like during Frantic when they're going da 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 da, and the Cookie Monster voice, and I felt all of the Metal Up family in the stadium laughing together. We're all in on the inside joke. So.
That's awesome, man.
Thank you.
Well, what a wonderful compliment. I've said it before, and I'll reiterate it here again in case the boys listen. We're expecting that fruit basket any day.
Yeah, I would love
right?
it. I would love a picnic basket too.
All I ask, it's very little, is residuals on Load and Reload sales starting in 2017, and a fruit basket.
That's all. Something
reasonable.
Clint and I can take to the park and then spread a blanket out and have a nice afternoon together.
So Dan, we want to hear all about the Copenhagen gig, of course, and we know you got to spend some time with Lars after the gig too. But so people who are hearing this part of the interview will already sort of heard a little bit about your career, what you're up to.
Cool.
Thanks again for the tickets to the Julia Michaels show. I mean, that was such a treat for me, being a songwriter. She's sort of at the top of the game right now. But let's talk about you, because it'll come as a surprise to maybe some it might come as a surprise that you're a big Metallica cat with your resume.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
so let's kind of start at the beginning though, when you were just a kiddo, because you're a bitchin' guitar player too, even though you do a lot of pop music. I actually got to see Dan come out on his first song with the Zakk Wylde Les Paul.
Yeah.
Doing all the rock moves we've been studying since we were kids.
Right.
And probably about 0.1% of the crowd you were playing to on that tour knew that guitar.
That's true.
Probably.
They're like,
right?
wow, that's the Zakk Wylde signature guitar, isn't it? A bunch of Pink fans.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Zach, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I was going to say, so where does it happen for you? You're in Toronto. You're a kid. Was your family musical? What's the deal?
Yeah. Well, I grew up actually in Ottawa, Canada, the capital of Canada. And my dad directs musical theater. So all the Canadian productions of like Phantom and Les Mis, my dad directs. And so I grew up, on those musicals. Also, he was like a Bob Dylan and Beatles fanatic. And I was really into Michael Jackson as a kid. And
same.
Then grunge happened. And I was, I heard once the first song on 10, and I went home and ripped down all my New Kids and Michael posters. And I was never the same. And that kind of got me into Nirvana. And then I wanted more. So that's when I got into like Guns N' Roses and Metallica. And I always loved the grunge stuff, but I got more into like, as I started playing guitar, I played piano when I was like 5. I took classical piano my whole life, but I got a guitar like when like grunge started. So, Pearl Jam, who I still love, and Nirvana, like I wanted to get more into like more technical stuff. And then Metallica would just like open the floodgates for that.
As they do.
Yeah. So I got on board with them, Black Album, and then went backwards. I've never stopped loving them. Sure, like you guys, all the different phases and obsessions. Metallica has always been that constant.
Yeah, man.
But that's kind of, so I was playing in bands and things like that in high school. And, but because I guess, I would go to all these musicals, I always sort of saw the bigger picture of the show. So, I started working as a session guitar player, and the pop artists, that I was working with, I was helping them with the live arrangements and doing musical direction. But I really started getting into like, even in high school, I was like, we need to add a hit here because there's going to be pyro. And my friends would be like, you idiot, we're playing the cafeteria. But, so yeah, I was musical directing pop artists, and I've done that, I guess you already said, for singers like Ariana Grande and Shawn Mendes, and Bieber. I actually played in his band and toured as his guitar player as well for a while, and that sort of just extended to what I'm doing now, which is mentoring young pop artists. I'm helping them with things like working the stage, speaking to the audience, overseeing creative things like lighting and wardrobe and screen content. And my niche right now seems to be like young green artists. And, I think for myself, and I'm sure like you guys, I grew up, playing where, my grandparents were the only people in the audience. And, I feel like a lot of singers these days who have a hit or get discovered, all of a sudden they've got to play on an arena stage and they've never carried a Marshall stack up 2 flights of stairs before. Yeah. So, I kind of come in and do this like boot camp. And, for the Metallica fans out there, I really borrow a lot from Metallica, things with the arrangements. Like I'll go into work with a band and they'll start, I hate when a band's like, this song is called this. And then the song's over and they're like, this next song is called this. And I'll show them how like, like when before Bells, when Lars just goes right into the kick, and like that's a perfect way to like make a segue.
Yeah.
It's a no-brainer, but people I guess don't do that. So things like when Kirk is doing all that noise and it's all distracting, so James could go switch guitars and set up for Fade or Sanitarium, and then the light goes off Kirk and then James appears in the light, and it's it actually is very theatrical, even though it's still heavy metal.
Absolutely. And I don't think a lot of people quite realize when they're going to a Metallica show that they're there is this much thought put in when it comes to what the band's doing in between songs, what James is saying to the crowd, and how it relates to pyro, video, lighting.
But that's
also
part of the magic of it too. Is you don't really want that shit to be noticeable.
Yeah,
it should sort of be seamless, right? I am getting a kick out of the visual in my head of you with a whistle having Julia Michaels carry Marshall half stacks up and down stage, up and down arena stairs. Come on, Julia,
go,
come on.
Yeah, right. That's so funny.
It's a big job. It's a big job though, because in addition to even everything you named, you're also making sure the band's up to scratch, right? You're making sure they're playing the right arrangements. So, and even when you're rocking out on stage, which I've seen, you're also having to listen to everything, because I'm sure that on gigs at the levels that you've done them, you're always refining. You always have notes. You want it to be better. This hit worked. That hit didn't. This transition could be better. So it's a pretty involved gig.
It is, and on things like, on a big pop gig, if we add a hit or move something, we have to let all the departments, the video, the pyro, we have to let everyone know. And with Bieber, we would watch almost like game tapes. We would watch the show after and pick it apart and critique it, and just things like getting water. Like I always would joke that I never saw Michael Jackson drink water. It's like Jack Bauer never pees,
Right.
And so I think there's a moment when it's cool, like when James is drinking a beer and he throws it in the audience, that's a thing. But you don't really see James before he starts Sandman being 1 second and he reaches down and opens a bottle cap, so just things like that I don't think the audience would pick apart, but just things that happens that makes it smoother, I guess.
Right. And it's, in relation to theater, those kind of little details at a big rock show or Metallica show, a Julia Michaels show, those are the things in a theater setting would be happening literally behind the curtain as the lights are coming down, you're running off stage. I mean, like you said, it's very similar. It's stuff that, like Clint said, you don't really want the audience to see. You want it to be seamless, and it provides for the whole experience of the entire show.
Let me tell you guys about seamless. There was a point in the Metallica show, and I saw this with my own fucking eyes because I was right by Kirk, where he pees. He has a whole moment where he comes and all the stage security people come and stand in front of him like a barricade.
Yeah.
And he urinates. He urinated maybe, 4 feet from me.
Yeah.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing?
And
That's amazing.
And in that same spot, he also seamlessly gets a back rub.
Dan,
on a table.
They brought out a gurney and he laid on it and got a massage.
No joke.
Are you serious?
Yes,
No, I swear to God.
Mid show, we were right there.
I'm impressed with those guys. Their work is more physically demanding than Charlie Watts. I mean, no disrespect to the Stones, but I mean, those are demanding parts and big stages to move around.
Yeah.
And,
well, and just the style of music that it is too. I mean,
it's very physical. Very
the
athletic.
Stones, as long as Mick Jagger can kind of dance, they'll be okay.
He still dances great.
Oh, he does. I'm saying,
oh my God, yeah.
if it got
Instagram video of him practicing dancing was unbelievable.
Totally. But even if it came to a point where he was like, I can't move like that anymore, I got to kind of hold a little more still. As long as he can still get something out of his mouth, that show will still be fine. Everyone's going to stand there. But with Metallica, it's like they're still running around all over the stage. It's a massive stage. Got that big catwalk. I mean, there's a lot of ground to cover on that stage, and it's great to see.
So, Dan, I wanted to ask you something because I thought about this. I didn't have an opportunity to. We've been able to hang out a little bit with some of their lighting directors and their techs. It's clear to me, right, that they had someone come in and produce their show, right? Because they have all these segues now. Like the Unforgiven intro is new, and they're using different stems, which is very much like that's what we do in our show. I don't know if Need to Breathe does that, Ethan, but you have someone who builds content for segues and stuff. So Metallica's obviously hired somebody to do that, right?
Definitely hired somebody to do that.
Do you know? Yeah. Do you know if they're based out of the Bay Area? Or is it some big company?
I'm not sure who they work with, but it seemed like, especially the stadium show, it's the most sort of production that I've seen as far as segues and the intros and things like that. And it was great. The content, the stuff that's on the screens is very expensive to create. And so there's definitely, I'm sure, Lars is all over it because he's all over everything.
Right.
But there's a creative team working on that show. And I think, have they been doing Unforgiven at every single, I think they have, right, on the stadium tour? Yeah. Okay, yeah. So I was trying to not look at the set list before my show, just because I like it to be as much of a surprise as possible.
And just for some context for what Dan's saying when he talks about that content, everything you see on the screens is made by someone who's either a part of their team or who's hired out.
Right.
I know that just at our level, where we sell anywhere from 2,000 to 3,000 tickets a show, that I think the content for each of our songs has different content on our video wall.
Right.
I think for each one, it's like $3,000.
It's not cheap. I mean, because you have someone that's in graphic design and does video work,
editing,
working with your video director or your video and lighting guy. I know even when I was still touring with Kings of Leon, I mean, we would have like production days where they're seeing all this content on the video screens for the first time, and that's kind of like the last chance. Like, okay, let's change that to do this a little differently, whatever. Fine tune it at the very last minute, but that's usually a lot of times, at least in my experience, the band is seeing it like during.
Oh yeah, we see it in
rehearsals.
rehearsals. Like, oh, that's cool. Or they'll integrate our music videos into the content and all that
exactly.
stuff. It's cool to see Metallica doing that.
I like it, and I think too. I mean, this is just me picking it apart. I think it works for the entertainment value, but I think it also is a way to give them a break to, go get some water or pee in a gurney or whatever they have to do. And we did that, like, on Bieber, it was always like, where is the costume change? So we always had to be creative. And I mean, being the musical director, it was easy for me to just do a long guitar solo and shred while he changed. But like, at some point, like there has to be thought into, if James needs to sit down or just whatever the case may be, it's a long show.
It's kind of dicey when the lead guitar player is the MD because I'm the music director for my gig too, and it's like you get to decide who does solos. And
right.
Like, I'll take this one. You can have that one that I don't really like as much. I'll take the big long outro one.
Right. And bass player, no solos for you.
We don't have to camp out in Biebertown a long time, but I think a lot of people would be surprised to know that he's actually is a Metallica fan.
Yes, of course. Well, Bieber grew up in a small town outside of Toronto where like classic rock rules. We have this band, The Tragically Hip, and Rush, and I mean, everyone, it's in, their musical fabric. And Bieber's dad was a big classic rock fan and rock fan. So Bieber, like he was exposed to a lot of that rock music, and he'd always surprise me that, even though he loves Boys to Men and things like that, he knew so many random rock songs, like even like weird, like deeper kind of like singer-songwriter songs like Fast Car, why does he know all the lyrics to Fast Car? Because his parents listened to Fast Car.
Yeah.
Is that Tracy Chapman?
Tracy Chapman, yeah. So he knew, like, I don't know why of all the songs. I think his dad learned the intro to Fade to Black at one point on guitar. And Justin, like, I would always play, backstage, and him and I would do these like 30-minute warm-up sessions backstage with my acoustic where, we'd do scales and things like that. And one of the things we'd always do is I would loop play Fade to Black, and he would hum the intro solo. And
cool.
I think at some point someone videoed it because it's on, it must have been our DJ who was always, exploiting stuff for YouTube. And he, so there's a video out there on YouTube of Bieber saying "Fade to Black."
Yeah,
like,
that's how we actually connected with Dan, because I think Dan became a patron or wrote an email, and another listener actually wrote in and said, "Hey, I think that's this guy," and sent us that video.
Yeah.
So of course, Ethan and I in the early stages of the podcast were like, "Holy shit! Wow, okay."
Well, and it's also a bit surprising to a lot of fans that maybe don't listen to a lot of pop music that some of those artists will be fans of heavy metal.
Yes,
it's I think for the general public of heavy metal fans, it's easy for them to see a picture of maybe him or a Selena Gomez or whoever wearing like a Ride the Lightning shirt and be like, "Oh, you poser," thinking, "Oh, there's no way they even know one track off that record." But as you have explained, it is surprising sometimes when you find out guys like Bieber are Metallica fans.
And Justin Ware is like, he has an incredible. I mean, I collect I'm a big vintage Metallica collector, like of shirts pre '94. And Bieber would, sorry, Clint, and Bieber would show up with like, an original like Damage Incorporated shirt, because he can do that. His stylist gets him it, but he's wearing it legitimately, so I respect that.
So is he trying? Were you guys trying to one up each other on your collection?
Oh, is that Puss? That's Puss at 87, dude. That's the guy to be
Seriously, there was this at some point. Like Justin used to wear like purple, and he'd wear these leather suits with zippers. Like I don't know why so many zippers. Like I keep my stash in there, but he And then at one point, like he started wearing all these rock shirts and wearing like flannels, like basically how I've been dressing since 1992. And and I remember like showing up at Ellen, just last minute. We were gonna like go out and just sing on her couch, like not even like an actual musical guest. Like we were just gonna walk out and sing on her couch. And I show up there, and Bieber's in a Metallica shirt, and I'm in my Nevermind shirt. And I said to the team, I'm like, oh, one sec, I'm going to go change into like a plain black shirt. And they're like, no, like that's the style now. And I was like, thank you, Lord.
Finally.
Isn't it a great feeling when the style that's into the time actually catches up to you? It's either a good feeling or it's like, damn it, my thing's ruined.
Well, then you got to go find your yearbook. Like my yearbook picture, I'm wearing a vintage Justice for All tour shirt, a damaged Justice shirt, and it's like this is proof that I'm legit, and it's also the explanation for why I was single and I couldn't get laid in high school.
I got to find this and maybe scan it and put it on our socials. But in my junior high yearbook, there's 2 pictures of me outside your normal class photo. One, they used to do these lunchtime activities, where like there's one where it's like I'm on a skateboard with a plunger trying to race this dude, and I'm in a Sad But True shirt.
Oh,
and then there's another one where they did this whole segment, a little page on all the twins at school because I've got a twin sister. And it's a picture of me and her, and she's looking all cute and like like Southern California, and it's me sitting there with my arms folded, wearing a shirt with a giant Anarchy logo on it.
Anarchy, Dad.
Anarchy in the 7th grade.
Take that, Dad. Well, Dan, you know this about us, man. We love like the depth of music, and I think it's really cool that Justin's into Metallica. That was a bonding point for you guys. So you moving on from a gig like Bieber, what goes into that kind of decision? Was that a big deal for you? I mean, you were pretty tight with him, right?
Yeah, well, and I still am. He's still one of my closest friends, like a brother. But I toured with him for about 8 years, 300 days a year.
Wow.
And around the same time, I had kids. I have 2 kids and a third one due in September. And around the time that my son was born, Zach, after Zach Wild,
nice.
I just, I'm sure you guys know this because you tour, but I found when I was going on tour, I couldn't do anything else. And as much as I was trying to, whether it be writing or taking on other musical direction gigs, and I really wanted to get more into having, musical directing multiple clients rather than just musical directing Bieber.
Right.
And so at the beginning of his Purpose album, I did a whole bunch of the acoustic promo and I worked on the rehearsals. And then it was just time to send the tour on, for me to not go on tour and start musical directing other projects. And it was more conducive to like growing my business and my career, but also being home more with my family.
And so what that looks like, so what you're talking about is at a certain level, the music director doesn't have to be in the band. So that means you'll oversee production rehearsals and maybe you'll fly out to a few shows just to make sure everything's cool. But you're mostly not on site, right?
Exactly. And that enabled me to work with a whole bunch of different artists. And that's when I started working with Shawn Mendes and some other young artists. And it was great. But funny enough, like when you saw me, Clint, with Julia, I started directing Julia Michaels, and it was just, there was no guitar in the music. And then she added a guitar, a song with guitar. And I was like, oh, well, if I'm going to be there directing, I might as well play. And it just sucked me right back in. And I realized how much I miss playing and touring. For me, it's like, when you're like 20 and you're like, oh, I'll quit smoking when I'm 25. No, I'll quit smoking when I'm 30.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm still kind of on the road right now.
Well, that tour seemed like a lot of fun because you were opening for Pink in arenas and the Nashville show was sold out. It was bitching. But then on your days off, you were doing your own headlining tour with Julia that I think was quite successful also. So I know a lot of
It was a great tour.
It looks so fun. A lot of our band guys are all songwriters and producers, and we're all super into Julia. And we were trying to find ways while we were on the road to try to go to some of those the club shows.
I know. I think both of me and Clint both were comparing tour schedules to see if either of us were in the same towns. But
because the arena show when you're opening, even if you're direct support, is one thing. It's its own thing. It's super cool. You got to go out there and earn it and fight for it. But for you guys to be doing on the days off your own sold out clubs of people that are there because they're stoked about Julia, that's a whole different energy too. I would almost prefer that,
We did, it's basically the difference between an away game and a home game.
Yeah.
And, it was opening for Pink was kind of just like 30 minutes of power, like wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, like go out there, high energy. But, to play for her fans. And I think for her too, I'm not sure if you told the listeners before, but Julia is like a extremely successful songwriter and has written all these hits for millions of pop artists, and then wrote a song that was too personal to give away and decided to sing it herself. And she, kind of semi-reluctantly became an artist and started touring. And so for her, she was really nervous and never imagined being the one on stage. She always hid in a studio writing songs for other people.
Right.
And being on stage, playing for her audience, seeing them sing the words back for her, really like she discovered the full circle of being a songwriter. And that's why we all love live music. Like I love listening to Metallica in my headphones, but there's nothing better, than being there singing Creeping Death at the top of my lungs.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
that's the full circle of music.
It's amazing. When you were telling me at the gig, I had no idea that, I mean, I knew she was primarily a songwriter, but I had no idea that she didn't have as much experience performing. And so I wouldn't have guessed it, man. Yeah, I wouldn't have guessed it because I thought she was pretty great. But a lot of that is because you were kind of mentored her and helped her come out of her shell in her performance capacity,
Yeah, I mean, she definitely had it in her, but there's nothing more scary for a singer to say, Cleveland makes some noise.
Right.
What
if they don't? What if they don't?
Fear is what if they don't? But I believe all audiences are like a Kiss audience. Like they all want to put their hands over their head. You just have to tell them to.
Yeah, totally.
So when was the first time you ended up seeing Metallica?
The first time I saw Metallica was on the Poor Old Twisted Me tour, which is it was with Corrosion of Conformity opening.
Oh, nice.
I think it was 97 in Ottawa, and I actually missed Corrosion of Conformity because I already had tickets to the concert, and I was listening to this radio station. There was like a metal hour every Friday night, and there was a contest. I was like 12 or something. There was a contest to call in and say one song that Metallica has covered, and they would give away a pair of tickets. And I called during the week and left my answer on the hotline, which was stone cold crazy. And then when the woman from the record label called my house to let me know, that I won the tickets and they're going to be at the box office, I was out playing hockey, and my mom answered, and my mom was saying, Daniel's going with his younger brother, and Metallica's his favorite band. He's so excited. And the woman from the label was like, "Oh, do you think he'd like to meet them?" And my mom, who's like the greatest, as moms would do, was like, please, like, this is the best offer, my son could ever receive.
Wow.
So my younger brother and I, we missed Corrosion of Conformity because we got to go backstage to the meet and greet, and we met James and Jason, and
wow.
It was like just such a fucking dream come true, especially back then, because it was just my dream to see them.
Well, and James, I mean, was still doing meet and greets back then too. I mean, he doesn't do them anymore unless you get the hardwired package. But wow,
totally.
what a cool thing to meet him and Jason.
And that was such a special time for them with I think their swagger level was at an all-time high in 1997, dude. Like I felt like they looked cool. They had a lot of confidence, and you got to meet Jason, which by now, like as we all know, it's like that might have been one of the last times to do that. It's so cool.
And Jason was like exactly how I saw him in all those movies. Like he was so friendly and nice, and I'm a Jason guy. Obviously, like Cliff is the man, but I even found myself, and I don't mean to be disrespectful to Rob, and I love Rob because he played, with Ozzy when I was obsessed with Zakk Wylde, but I was in the Snake Pit in Copenhagen, and the band's kind of all around you, and every time Rob would like be right in front of me, I was like looking for James or Kirk or Lars. Like he's just, I mad respect to Rob, but I still, and I'm a hired gun. I'm not like he's got the most coveted gig, but Jason is my Metallica bass player.
Rob is still a new guy to you, isn't he?
Exactly. Yeah.
But I think even he would agree with that. I think he would get that and agree with it.
With a legacy like Metallica's, Jason probably felt like that for most of his career in the band. Still felt like the new guy, replacing
100%.
Cliff.
Well, they made him. Yeah, they subjected him to that. Yeah.
But I mean,
totally.
they haven't done that to Rob. But I'd imagine just with the whole 38-year legacy of Metallica, he's just got to naturally feel that way.
Yeah, I mean, I talk about that with Zakk Wylde a lot too, because he always tells me that playing for Ozzy is like putting on a Yankee uniform. That's his analogy,
right?
And he's like, everyone wants you to be Mickey Mantle and Joe DiMaggio.
Dan, you just sort of said that super casually. You mean every time you talk to Zakk Wylde, you homies with Zakk Wylde?
Yeah. Sorry, I don't mean to be a name dropper, but it started. You said earlier that I played Zakk Wylde's Bullseye. That's like my dream guitar. And one of the reasons, like when I imagined as a kid, like wanting to play guitar, I picture the Bullseye. And my wife got it for me when we got engaged. I bought her, I guess she said her dream engagement ring, and she bought me my dream guitar.
Wow,
and,
that's cool.
And so I played it for the first time on SNL. And, there's 2 performances on SNL. And I played it with Bieber, and in the hour between the first performance and the second performance, I got all these tweets from metalheads being like, "Kill yourself! How dare you? How dare you play a Zakk Wylde guitar with Justin Bieber?"
Master!
At this point in the interview, we had a technical difficulty and the phone cut out, but Dan basically told a story about how when he played the Zakk Wylde guitar on SNL, he got a call from Zakk who saw it, which was a nice treat after getting death threats from metalheads. So back in with Dan. Here we go.
Master!
Zack's the man. Like, he's my, he's definitely my hero.
That's cool.
On many levels.
And correct me if I'm wrong, is his Bullseye a sort of tribute to the Randy Rhoads Polka Dot V? The sort of black and white. I know his is a bullseye and Randy's was polka dots.
No, just some guy in LA painted it for him. And there's like, it started, I think his first, like the first appearance of it is in the Miracle Man video.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's to do with Randy Rhoads. I don't know, actually. That's a good question. I've never asked him why a bullseye.
Well, if only we knew someone who knew him.
Yeah.
Right.
Man, I got to meet Zakk years ago in an airport in Australia. Black Label Society was on a traveling tour down there, Soundwave. I don't know if you ever did it, but
was he sober or not?
I'm pretty sure he was. Yeah, this was.
Oh, nice.
I'm not sure what year
great.
he got sober. This would have been 2010, maybe 11.
Yeah, so he was sober then.
He was cool. Like me and the guitar player in my old band. We're like, dude, that's Zakk Wylde. We're like, I'm not usually one to just like run up to somebody like, hey man, unless it's like you're backstage and it's like a common area, but it's like airport. It's an annoying place to be anyways. But he was cool as hell, man. We chatted for a little bit, and my friend John showed him a picture of his son with his first guitar, which was like an Epiphone little mini kids guitar with the same bullseye on it.
Oh, nice.
And Zakk was pretty stoked on that.
That's wicked. He's the nicest guy, man. The first time I met Zakk, it was in Oslo, Norway. And I was there with Bieber, and he was playing with Ozzy, and we couldn't overlap for our show. So the only thing we could do was meet for breakfast before I left for the airport. And I met him at his hotel, and we went into like, the hotel buffet, and the person working there asked for his name and room number to go into the buffet, and he gave like a different name, and I was like, oh cool, that's the name that you stay under. He's like, oh yeah, the Aussie fans, and fuck with these Bieber girls, you have to stay under a different name. What's your name? And I was like yours.
Oh,
that's amazing.
Wow.
And he gave me a big hug. He's the fucking man. Anyway,
that's awesome.
That's a good little tangent about Zakk. Let's talk about Dave Matthews and Fish, and then we'll go on a real
hey, I'm glad Dan, I am glad you brought it up first, because I was going to tell all of our listeners who will hate this fact that Dan and I text more about Dave Matthews probably about 40 to
spat out my water.
Probably about 40 to 70% more than we talk about Metallica. Because Dan's a massive Dave fan and a massive Fish cat too. So it's fun to talk about. I literally do not have almost anyone anymore to talk to Dave Matthews at the level that Dan and I can riff on it about.
Right.
But it's fun to have people like that in your life when you and I found each other and this whole Metallica thing started. But I mean, when there's a certain band that's like, it's a specific fan base. Yeah. You can't just walk down the street and just talk to anybody at the depth you guys are talking about Dave Matthews.
Dan, what do you think, whether it's Dave Matthews or Fish or Metallica, what do you think about this idea? Like, do you think it's all nostalgia because it's of a certain time when we were coming of age, learning to play music, playing in our first bands? Or is it a combination of that? I mean, to me, it just seems like the music still holds up. I love Dave's new record. I love Hardwired to Self-Destruct. So...
yeah, well, I love Dave's new record. There was as well, and there was a period kind of in the last decade where I kind of didn't love his new stuff, and it was more nostalgic. And the same thing with Metallica. Like, I know we'll talk about this later, but I really disliked Saint Anger. I actually like it more now because of you guys and just the importance of it in the whole history of their canon. But there was a period where I went to all those Saint Anger tour shows, and it was only nostalgic. But then, everything changed with Death Magnetic for me and Hardwired. And I think, I love them as much now. Currently, it's not just nostalgia, like exactly what you said. Yeah, totally.
I feel the same way. I definitely, my love for Metallica has grown doing the show, especially, and I think Hardwired has a lot to do with it.
I think so too. I mean, that was the initial excitement because that only came out 6 weeks before we launched this podcast.
Yeah.
So
wow, that's crazy.
The timing of that was perfect, and just the fact that Clint and I have to research so much stuff or look up videos or quotes or whatever, and or sit down and just listen to a record all the way through. It's like, I mean, we've listened to Metallica more in the last 2.5 years than we have in most of our life.
I think about and research Metallica every day of my life now, which is a little more than I bargained for, but it's still rad.
But right now, it's so exciting to be a Metallica fan. They're not just touring once in a while, like, a Pearl Jam or Stones. Like, Metallica is like a new album. They're on tour. They're doing the symphony. They've got their, I got their the whiskey. There's so much going on. And I your podcast for me is a big part of that for sure.
Oh, man, thank you.
It's great being a Metallica fan right now. Every day,
it really is, man.
News.
I was explaining to some of my tour mates who they kind of like Metallica. They're aware of the podcast. They listen sometimes because they like you and I, Ethan.
Right. Well, that's good.
But I was trying to explain the significance of like they're selling out stadiums in Europe after touring. They've already toured Europe.
Yeah.
So so Dan, like your experience of playing big, massive shows like that. If you're on the business side of that, you're probably hoping to get 18 months total of that kind of tickets. To do it for 3 years is pretty fucking crazy, man.
And those stadiums aren't just like small size stadiums like a minor league baseball stadium. I mean, there's what was that one, like 70,000 tickets or something?
Berlin and then Slane Castle.
Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah, insane, right? I know. I saw them once in Quebec. There was like 130,000 people there. It was insane. Jeez. But, I think for them, I mean, Metallica, more than I think a lot of music, like, more than even pop music, is the most, it's global on such a massive scale. So they could go anywhere in the world and sell out a stadium, I think.
Right.
And I think also, it's so smart how they, just for the sustainability of themselves. I mean, they could probably do all the dates in 6 months, but they, for their sanity, they, take so many breaks. And I actually, I think about that all the time. And it's something I always wanted to do is, introduce Justin and Metallica, or, because I think like going on the road for 18 months nonstop is, it takes its toll on someone. And I think these guys, similar, I mean, I know Clint, you do, and Ethan, you guys do like the weekend warrior things, and you guys are back in the city on the weekdays, and what that does for your psyche compared to just being gone. I mean, I've done it for 2 years straight, and so I think that's obviously why their tours take so long as well. But I think it seems like they're happier than ever. Like, I've never seen James and Lars so happy and giving each other looks. And where I was in the snake pit, anytime James was in the front of the snake pit, he'd completely turn around just to lock in with Lars for some of the hits.
Yeah.
And like, they were laughing at each other, and it was like, they just figured it out, and thank God they have, because it doesn't look like they're going anywhere.
Yeah, totally, man.
I like the point you were making too about someone like Justin who just worked so fucking hard. I mean, by the way, that's how you get to be someone like him, is you have to work that hard.
Yeah, totally.
I don't think people can appreciate that at some level, but there is a lot that artists like Justin or whomever can learn from a model like Metallica's, because I think they only do 50 shows a year. And they were known as the road dogs,
Oh yeah, I mean, up until I don't even know when they, even on the Poor Touring Me tour, I don't even know if they were even doing the 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off thing back then.
I don't think they started doing that until after Saint Anger.
After rehab,
post rehab.
Yeah, so definitely Magnetic and Hardwired. So I mean, so all 8 other albums, they're hitting it real hard, especially back in the late 80s, early 90s. Yeah. It was no joke, man. There were so many Black Album shows, so many Justice shows.
Man, speaking of that, I just watched that Bob Dylan. Have you seen this, Dan, the Rolling Thunder Review documentary?
I haven't watched it yet, but it's one of my favorite Dylan eras. I'm dying to see it.
Is it good?
Yeah, it's good.
I just added it to my list.
Well,
on
it's
Netflix.
so far out. I mean, it's really wild.
Yeah,
it's very Dylan. If you especially 70s Dylan, like the records around there, like Desire and stuff. And
Desire, and Blood on the Tracks.
On the Tracks, all that great 70s stuff, because he quit touring for a long time.
Right.
He put this crazy band together, and then he's like wearing kabuki makeup. It's really wild. The violin chick that's touring with him like carried a sword the whole time and shit. But it made me think about him, because I think in the 80s when he started touring again, he's basically toured over 100 dates a year ever since then. He calls his tour the never-ending tour.
The never-ending tour. Exactly.
And
yeah, guys, it's wild, right? I know, but for him, I guess it works. He's like a true road dog, and yeah, I go see him a lot. It's always hit or miss. He's definitely changed.
I've heard,
It's awesome to see, just to see him in person. He's such
My
a
friend
legend.
Bob Schneider and I were joking about because I've seen him a few times too, and like he'll play all piano all night, and he'll set up far stage right. His whole band's like on the rest of the stage. He's far stage right, but with his back to the band.
So weird.
Which anyone else,
say a word to the audience.
Yeah, anyone else, it's like, you dick. But with Dylan, you're like, that's so fucking baller.
That's so Dylan.
It's so cool.
It's so Dylan.
Only he can pull it off. All right, so now another little Dave Matthews factoid. You actually missed the Toronto show to go to this Copenhagen gig, right?
Correct.
So that's dedication, because we know what a big Dave fan you are.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen both bands. I've seen Dave probably more than like 50, 60 times. Metallica, I've seen maybe like 20 times now or something.
How many times have you seen Fish?
107.
Wow, dude, that's amazing.
Yeah, but Fish, there's an app for it. Like you enter every show and it pumps out all these stats. It's very easy to keep track.
Because when a band like Fish, and to a similar but maybe lesser extent with Dave, you're chasing songs. You're
100%.
You're trying to catch songs you've never seen.
Right, yeah.
So.
It took me 50 shows to hear my favorite song. Yeah,
wow.
Exactly. But yeah, I was happy to miss, Dave is like, I go every summer, but this Copenhagen thing, I love Copenhagen. It's one of my favorite cities in the entire world on so many levels. And this restaurant there, this famous restaurant called Noma, which I've been with my wife and I've been a couple times, but my younger brother for his 30th birthday, I wanted to take him on a brother trip, and we have, our third baby's due in 2 months, and it was just
congrats,
perfect timing.
By the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, man.
It was perfect timing to take him to, one of my favorite cities and take him out for like amazing food. And of course, see like, Metallica is our favorite band together,
right.
And we haven't seen Metallica together in a while. And it was really special to share with him. And like, there was one point we watched all those like, year and a halves in my parents' basement, dreaming of being on stage.
Yeah,
and, just like arm in arm singing Nothing Else Matters together, saying Open Legs for a Different View. Like it just brought me back like 30 years. It's crazy.
Yeah, man.
Was that like something James used to do? Was that like a variation he would put in?
You go Open Legs. Yeah.
That was a very different. That was not Pop Ahead.
Such a different time.
That was not Pop Ahead.
That was James with a Z.
Yeah, exactly.
Totally. And he and I always hit, and it goes landmine. There's that boom after landmine, and we just we fist that, like we pump our fist so hard for that part.
That's your theater background coming out, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, the sun will come out. Landmine,
jazz hands.
Nice.
Man, that's so cool that you got to share that with your brother, Snake Pit. And of course, I'm sure there was a little bit of a different energy in the air too, with it being the homecoming show for Lars.
Yeah.
Big time. Yeah, it's Lars land for sure. He was like posting all these pics around the city on Instagram, and I was tempted to fall, to try to chase him down.
Because you know where some of that shit is,
like I did
right?
when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so tell us about the gig.
Well, the gig was awesome. It was super huge. I've never seen them in a stadium. I've seen a lot of shows, like massive shows in like a field. I was at Bonnaroo and I was at those big, like outside lands and outdoor, at the Quebec City one, but this is the first time I've seen them in a giant stadium. I saw them on this tour in Munich, and I love the arena tour, but man, the stadium tour, like to see those big screens in person, it's really well done. Like I was super up close and it was great, but anytime I would kind of walk to the back to get a beer, any seat, even in a giant stadium is a great seat for them. And that show is enormous. The set list was fucking awesome. I love Wherever I May Roam, and, but it was nice to hear, Ride the Lightning. Like that was and again, like I try not to look at the set list so I can be surprised. Or God That Failed. Like when that started, I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
God That Failed.
Well, that's so cool that you haven't been looking at the set list, because I mean it's now kind of common knowledge which of the rotating slots are, and the God That Failed will be there every other show or every 3 shows or something. Or
so you didn't know there was a Saint Anger song coming.
No.
Wow.
And it's kind of like I don't know if I'm having a boy or a girl. To me, the set lists are the same thing. I love the surprise.
A set list reveal party for Dan Kanter.
I love that moment when a song kicks in. But yeah, and it was great. And also, like, for me, I mean, I'm as I get to becoming an old man, my biggest concern in the middle of 80,000 people is when and how am I going to pee?
Absolutely.
Yeah, totally. That's a real struggle, man.
That's real shit. I know. And I think about that when I used to do the big shows and there'd be kids in the front all day. And I'm like, how do you guys pee? Or do you just not drink water and hydrate and pee? Like, I'm turning into Larry David peeing at concerts. So I ran to pee, unfortunately, during Clover. But I think that was the right choice. And then the doodle thing happened right after. And it was the right decision if I was going to miss something. Even though I love Clover, that's
a tough one to miss, man.
But anyway, it's a lot of people. Like, being in the Snake Pit, being in the center of it all was so cool, and with them all around. Like, there was points where James was running by, giving high fives to people, like being like, "Hey," and you could like hear him off the microphone.
That's cool.
He was so close. It was really awesome, man. I love that band so much. One show is never enough.
Oh, and you're correct. It's not. I mean, I've only seen 5, and I mean, even after the Nashville show, which was our last of this tour, was like, oh my God, I want more. I want more of this. I want to do this again. You know, and I tried to get to another one at the Louisville show, but it didn't work out with my tour schedule. But yeah, man, they're just one of those bands that, and even with the production stuff we're talking about earlier, and all the transitions and video content, it's not just like, oh, I'm watching Metallica play their songs. It's a whole experience. It's like you're watching a live production movie, something, like. Of that scale, and
there's also the angle too of like sharing it with all the other fans,
right?
Because the history of the band and what the songs have meant to so many people for so long.
Yeah, it is the best feeling being in a city, like kind of in the area, having some wine beers before the show, and everyone. It's like, when I go to a Grateful Dead show, and it's just like fucking tie-dye everywhere, seeing everyone with Metallica, and when I went to Quebec City years ago, I know I'm jumping around here, but for that Quebec City show, I was having like lunch at this like quaint cafe with my wife, down this like cobblestone street. And there were other people at the restaurant, but like who knew if they were fans? And then like in the distance, this like church bell went off and it went bing, and everyone kind of giggled like it was bells. And I was
the whole bar started going da 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 da.
Yeah, it was like such a great feeling. So yeah, it was. So seeing a show with that many people, like the energy is just fucking insane.
Yeah, man.
Well, so how did it come to be that you got to spend some time with Lars after the gig?
With Lars. Well,
you just got to call my friend Zach real quick, and he set it up.
Zach, have Lars page me, please. Thanks.
Yeah, that was such a dream come true, hanging with him. And I kind of the long short of it is I know the people at Q Prime quite well, just from when my son was born. They knew I was a Metallica fan, and they sent me like a Metallica baby shirt for him. And
cool.
That's nice.
I was like, I kind of hooked them up with Bieber meet and greets, and they would hook me up with Metallica tickets all the time. And like really nice relationship, and we'd go back and forth. And so they hooked me up with my brother with the Snake Pit passes. And when I go to a Metallica show, they give me there's like this VIP room that has an open bar, I guess, for all the guests.
Yeah, we've been in there.
And you've been with there, and that great dude, Justin. Do you remember him? He's got a mohawk. He's like the bartender. Did you meet him?
I remember seeing that dude.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't. We were kind of in there chatting with a couple of friends, so we didn't really get to meet anybody that was a part of the tour per se.
So that's his like job on tour, is hosting the VIP guests in that room and stuff. And so I was kind of go in there and I'll for some drinks, and I know that the people from this restaurant Noma, where I've been quite a bit, and in Copenhagen, and one of the sommeliers there is a good friend of mine and is also a good friend of Lars. And after the show, we were in the VIP room having drinks, and there was this like other VIP room, I guess that was just for Lars's guests. And the sommelier just grabbed my brother and me and brought us into the other room.
Wow.
And so I walked in there, and it was 1 a.m. at this point, and then I started. There were only maybe 5, 6 people in the room besides us, and I started having a really lovely conversation with Lars's wife, and Lars's son Miles was there, and we have some mutual friends because I played a bunch with Bob Weir, who from the Grateful Dead, who lives in the Bay Area, and Miles, Lars's son, goes to school with Bob's kids. So,
okay, cool.
We were having like a really nice conversation, and then like 15 minutes later, Lars walked in with a toothpick in his mouth, and it was like, it was just unbelievable. I love Lars so much, and it was such a dream come true. And when I meet someone like that, like I do not try to act cool. I always just be myself.
Yeah, you have to, man.
And like, we were having like having like a whole long conversation about music and things like that. And he was asking me all about drummers, and I was saying, like, for me, when I hire a pop drummer, like a lot of the drummers that I work with have like, super chops and they come from like a gospel background, but I need someone who can also, play like you, because you're my favorite drummer of all time.
Hell yeah. What do you say to that?
Give me a hug.
Oh, man.
That's awesome.
I don't care. So yeah, it was really cool. And we talked about a bunch of stuff. What did we talk about?
I'm sure he really appreciated that, because he's the most popular metal drummer of all time, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And and yet underappreciated, has had the whole trope of being given shit. He's like the Ringo of metal.
Yeah, totally.
And it's
right?
and so someone like you who knows his shit, I'm sure that really does mean a lot to him when you're like, dude, the way you play is so special, and it created the unique singular sound of Metallica that a session chops guy simply couldn't do.
Right.
Totally. And I mean, just like Ringo, a lot of those, the Lars fills are so musical, and they're like, make you want to air drum them, right? Like all those sad but true drum fills.
Yes,
like,
absolutely.
Come on, like any other band. Like I love Pantera, and I love, but man, no one writes fills and parts like Lars. I think they're so musical.
Totally agree.
It's true, man.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say you're right about like his drum fills. You want to air drum them. They are musical. To me, they're a lot of his drum parts are just as catchy as a guitar riff or as a vocal or a melody. Where at points in the show, like you can sing out his drum parts, or even like I could mouth something to you, you know what I'm talking about when you say that, when you mouth that kind of stuff, which is a true testament to the talent of that dude and his arrangement skills and his thought process in writing drum parts.
I'm similar to you too, Dan. Like I don't know if I'll ever meet these people again. So being cool is not a priority for me. It's really important to me to let them know how grateful and thankful I am for the work they did.
Right. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I have no problem doing that and just, being myself. And I was like that with Lars and his family. It was really, really exciting. I still can't believe
that's a great experience,
happened.
man. Especially because you weren't expecting it too. It kind of happened after the show. You think, well, let's have some drinks, say hi to a friend, and then we'll bounce. But all of a sudden, your friend's like, "Yo, come in here. You got to."
Yeah, and it's true. And like, I really, I when I was a kid, I waited by buses, and now it's, I honestly feel like it's even though I think I know they're just people, I still fucking worship these guys.
Right.
It's like it's like when I meet a hockey player, right? Like And there's no one I worship more. Like, there's no bigger rock stars for me than Metallica. And yeah, it was so exciting. I still can't believe it.
It's a lot to come down from. I mean, you pretty much just got home, right? I mean, like you're still sort of
I just got home
riding that wave.
Totally, it was really exciting, and and I've met, like, it's super cool to have met James and Jason, and now Lars. I met James a second time. It's actually a crazy. I don't know if we should get into it, but anyway.
I think you just did.
Am I talking too much?
No. I'd like to hear about you meeting James.
The second time I met James, I was in Bieber and I were doing like a TV show acoustic in Paris, and the next day we had a day off, and Metallica was doing that TV show the next day with like for the Lulu of all things.
Wow.
And at that time, like, James was they weren't doing meet and greets, or again, James specifically. And they really didn't want guests at the TV show, when they were very private at this time. And I think this was even before the packages. and the meet and greet packages. And I asked someone from Universal France who knew I was obsessed with Metallica. This guy named Thomas. He actually added me to the Universal Music employee list to come to the TV show. And I basically like tagged along as if I was working for Universal Music.
You're like a spy.
Undercover. And so when James did his like obligatory meet and greet with the label, this guy Thomas and I were there, and I got to have I took a picture with James, and very quickly, as you said, Clint, like told him how much I love him.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Why is this guy from the label telling me this?
And yeah, right. And but it's kind of got a sad ending, because this guy Thomas from the label, he was one of the people working with Eagles of Death Metal in Paris when that attack happened, and he was shot and killed. So it's that picture is like really special for me, because Thomas is like in the background behind James and I, and I have that picture on my wall, of course, and every time I look at it, it's like, oh my God.
It's so tough. It's so tough as performers too to have to worry and think about that. Like, especially in the industry that I work in Vegas a couple of years ago, or I think it was last year.
No way. Were you playing there?
I wasn't there, but literally like all my friends were.
I had a bunch of people that were working that festival, and
even and just the ripple effect of that. And we don't have to camp out on this dark note, but even the ripple effect. We were playing a festival this weekend, and I was hanging out with our guitar tech kind of by the side of the stage, and there was a woman asking the security guard if she was safe. Like, it was overheard their combo, and she was basically saying, "Do you security guards have guns?" And he was like, "Not really. What's everything okay?" And she was like, "Well, Las Vegas, are we safe here?" I'm like, God damn.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunately it's like something that as concert goers and performers, you just think about. I remember the day that happened. It was the same day Tom Petty died.
Yeah, right.
I was at
it was. Yeah.
Oh wow.
I woke up to that happen. Oh, I'm sorry. The news broke
that he was sick, or that he'd gone.
The news broke about Vegas. The Vegas thing happened the night before, and the news really broke the next morning. And then that day, Tom Petty died.
Wow.
So I guess it was the day after, technically. But I remember, and I'm sure if you were on the road at this time, this would have happened too. I mean, our venue security guy at the time, we were at Red Rocks, massively open venue.
Yeah.
And we had a gnarly security meeting for like an hour that day about like exit strategies and if this kind of stuff happens, because we were doing a bunch of outdoor stuff that year.
Yeah.
And
it's really kind of since Dime was killed too. Like, if you can really kind of trace it back to that club gig. Where was that? In Ohio somewhere?
That was in Ohio. Yeah.
Damage Plan. Yeah. You
Damage
took the words out of my mouth.
That was in Toledo, I think, or something.
I don't remember.
It's in a smaller city in Ohio. Yeah.
Well, it is cool that you got that picture and you can kind of remember Thomas in that way.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's sort of tethered to you meeting one of your heroes. I mean, that's awesome. Was James? Did he receive your lauding well? Was he cool about it?
Yeah, he was super cool. I mean, he made he looked me in the eyes, and I think for sure, and then the first time too, like when I was 12, I did the same thing, and I could barely speak, and and it was great. Yeah, James, I love you. Play Blackened tonight.
For me, it'd be Fixer, and they do not want to hear me say that.
Of course, for you, it'd be Fixer.
Hey, Clint, can you play Fixer?
You think maybe you guys could play Enter Sandman later?
I hope they play Fixer at the symphony for you, Clint.
I know. I'm kind of hope. I'm sending all my. I'm making offerings to the metal gods that they'll dust. It would be a great debut of that song. Everyone's got to admit that.
It really would. Yeah.
It'd be a dope
debut.
I'm
with you. Yeah.
All right, so Dan, we want to be sensitive to your time, and but we actually have some patrons that want to hear from you. They have some questions for you. Are you cool to answer some questions?
Yeah, of course. That's awesome.
Okay.
First one's from James Hetfield.
Please give me Zach Wilde's telephone number. All right. Louis Lima asks, what is your favorite Metallica song?
Oh, man. My favorite Metallica song... If I had to pick one, it would be Creeping Death.
Yeah.
But right behind it would be Blackened and One.
Nice. I think those are all
my favorites. My favorite. Yeah, those are my favorites. My favorite deep cut is probably like Damage Inc.
Nice.
Yeah. Solid choices.
Well, I know you told me that your two favorite Met records are Justice and Lightning, and we're going to do a Metal Madness duking it out to see which is the best song on those two records.
Yeah.
And we're doing it, we don't normally do it this way, but we're matching it song for song.
Oh,
Wow, that's a good idea.
Like track order by
It's
track
gonna
order?
be it's gonna
Yeah.
be Fight Fire versus Black, and how tough's that gonna be?
Damn it.
Yeah.
It's tough. Yeah.
All
I mean, I got an answer, but it's tough.
Well, for that one, it's Black, but we don't have to jump in now. Okay.
Okay.
Stan Pearl asks, what's your songwriting process like, specifically with how you come up with lyrics? And have you drawn inspiration from Metallica in any of your songs?
That's a great question. My process, I have, I mean, probably like you guys, I have like I used to have it in like a journal. Now I have it just in the notes on my phone. And I'm just constantly, wherever I am, writing down lyric ideas, whether that's just like a synopsis for a song or it's like a little phrase. And I actually try to I practice being mindful, in my regular life, but especially as a songwriter, I try in moments when I'm somewhere to look around and be observant and look at where I am from a songwriter's perspective. And a big thing is coming up with titles. And James does that too. A lot of the songs, he'll come up with a great title, and then that will sort of inform what the song is about. Do you guys do that as well?
I have
the title.
I have done that where I've just randomly thought of something. I'm like, that would make a really good song title, and then that could in turn kind of inspire the lyrics or the subject or where you want to go with the lyrics. But yeah, I've definitely done that.
Yeah, I when I write here in my studio, I'm more on the track side, so I don't really. My song starts with a musical, so whoever's doing a top line or a lyric will kind of have a premise. And I'm always just down to write anything. So I always feel like I'm never worried we're not going to get something if no one has something like that.
Right.
I just feel like you can talk for an hour and figure out something you want to do that day. I did know that James does that and then sort of engineers from the top down when he has a cool, like the Judas Kiss. What could that be?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of times I'll go into a gig, like a session with a pop artist, and I'll have, 10 ideas to throw at them and see what they think. But then we end up just like shooting the shit for 30 minutes.
Right.
And something from that conversation, ends up being the song. Yeah.
Do you feel a unique pressure, or maybe in the opposite way, the pressure's off when you are around great songwriters like Julia Michaels? Or do you really feel like you have to be on top of your game? Or are you so friendly and cool with her and you've helped her in her career so much that it's really easy to be creative with her?
Well, someone like her, I mean, she just runs with it. So I end up focusing more on the music side of things than the lyrical side of things.
Yeah.
But what she's so good at, and what I try to do with some of the younger artists that I work with, is she knows. I'll tell her a feeling, and she just like perfectly puts it into words, and that is her expertise.
That's
it's
cool.
Not just it's she just like it's unbelievable how she does it. I'm in awe of the way she writes. Yeah.
Okay, Lauren Singh asks, and before I ask her a question, are you doing a master's in musicology? Why would
I was doing a master's in musicology, but I put it on hold.
So she's studied up on you, dude, because I didn't even know you were doing that.
That's intimidating.
So she asks, what type of classes were you taking in the courses? Is it more music theory or psychology based? What kind of advantage do you think a graduate degree in this field would bring to future aspiring musicians? That's a good question.
Yeah,
that's a great question. Well, I went to university and I did a degree in classical composition and analysis. And then I went on to start my master's, and I was actually doing it with a focus on Bob Dylan, go figure.
Wow.
And what I was really always interested in academically was not just the music, but how music works with society. Why would someone write that Jimi Hendrix's electric guitar version of the Star Spangled Banner was an actual protest against this? Like, it reflected the sounds of the war in Vietnam. That's what musicology is.
Right.
So, there was a point after high school where I was debating going somewhere like Berkeley or the school of GIT in LA. But that was, that would really just to be like a shredder. And I knew that I could, practice piano and guitar and get better as a musician just on my own. And I was really interested in that sort of larger picture of analyzing music and history.
Yeah.
What do you think about what that might bring to the table for you being a music director or a guitar player or a songwriter?
Yeah. Well, for me, it really just kind of continued from, with the musical theater thing, thinking about music in a bigger picture. And I'm, it's not just, it's like this song, but why this song here and now. And I'm always, for me, it's all about the audience. And so I think I'm more connected into like looking at it from an audience and a fan perspective than my own perspective. So just always remembering that big picture. And so when I'm working on an arrangement for a show, it's kind of less about, oh, that's a cool kick drum pattern, but it's like, how is like poor Jenny in the back fucking row of the 300 level, how is this kick drum pattern going to get her off,
Yeah, sure.
Is it difficult for you to enjoy shows the way you used to when you were a kid, now that you're always sort of in that mode?
I really try to turn off my brain and not think about that. And if I drink enough beer, it's easy to get there. But yeah, I really try to turn off my brain. But the one thing that I'm very critical on is set lists. I'm always like, when a song starts, it's like, oh, that's perfect choice, or oh, I wouldn't have done that there.
Yeah.
Whatever. Like that's what I'm always hard on, especially in pop shows when it's the same set list. It doesn't really apply as much. With actually Metallica applies in a different way because they're changing it up. So Lars really has a control of the narrative of the night. So I do think, I mean, I didn't know this too. Now I know. I've looked back at all the set lists, and so I know what the audibles are, or the rotating slots are. But yeah, I think it's like,
I've been joking on the European Stadium tour, because after they do the St. Anger slot, they do like 5 barn burners in a row.
Yeah.
They do like Moth, Sad, Puppets, Bells, Creep, Seek.
Creep,
yeah.
Seek,
And One's in there too, yeah.
And I've kind of gotten a kick out of that being like Lars apologizing for the St. Anger slot. Like, thank you for listening to that, guys. We're going to make it up to you
and play these 5
with 25 minutes of just
right?
crushing you,
Yeah, I find that's a very interesting part of setlist construction. When I go see someone like Elton John, he always has new albums. His new albums, for those who listen, are really, really good. But obviously 99% of the audience is there to hear the hits. And so he does a really good job. And there's a way to do it where he'll play a bunch of hits, and then he'll do like a really heartfelt introduction about what the new song is about. Maybe that new song has like extra special production. Like U2 does that well too. So maybe you don't know the song, but visually there's more to look at, so it keeps you intrigued.
And they bring you into it,
Bring you in, yeah. And Elton John once did one where he played all hits, and then he said, I have a new album, I'm going to play some songs off it, and he played 4 in a row. Like he's always experimented with how to do that. But I totally hear what you're saying about him doing that. And I always felt when Elton does it, like it's kind of like an apology, and I don't like that. I think it should be like that is the way to do it, and that is strategic for the sake of the audience. And I'm sure there are tons of people, like you could see the mass of people going to take a piss and getting a fresh beer when that new song starts.
Right.
But it kind of in a way is an apology. But man, those 5 in a row, like when they in Copenhagen, I know you guys, everyone listening probably knows this, but the drum set comes up at the tip of the snake pit. So they do
Bells and
like
Creep.
Bells and Creeping Death and Seek and Destroy up there, and that was super cool. Except that for my brother and I, we were so close to Lars. We were kind of at the top of the snake pit that I could hear the drums more from him. So it was like really delayed from the PA.
Yeah.
And it was like tripping out my brain.
It may have also been the desert peyote that you ate before you walked in.
Yeah, there's that too, yeah.
Right.
All right, one more question before we do this Metal Madness. Lou Delia asks, and it's a 2-parter, of course. He says, what was your favorite project you've ever been a part of, either produced, written, played, or toured?
Ooh, that's a good question.
And everyone you've ever worked with will be listening to this answer. So.
Bieber's listening right now.
Yeah. Wow, that's a tough question. Well, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind, I'm sorry for all this name dropping. I hate to.
No, dude, it's your life.
brag,
It's real.
But I guess the most recent thing like that comes to mind like that is I worked on this rapper named Logic. He's great. He's new. He's got this song that is a collab with Khalid and Alessia Cara, and it's basically the song. I call it's 1-800, but basically what 1-800 and the rest of the number is It's the suicide hotline, suicide prevention hotline number.
Wow.
And I was brought in to do the creative and the musical direction for the performance at the MTV Awards and at the Grammy Awards.
Wow.
And so that song, basically what we did was we just plastered that number all over the stage and all over the screens. And at one point, we had a choir come out and all the, the cliche kind of bells and whistles. But one of the things we did was we brought out all these survivors of people or parents who called this hotline, and they came out on stage and stood there so proud, and they were all crying, and it was such a great Grammy moment. And then the next week, we got all these stats about how the hotline numbers, it jumped 80% or something insane like that. It was really crazy. So, it was really special to be a part of something so powerful. I love being a part of a song that's just hey girl, I want you back. But to be part of, something with such a message was really special.
Yeah, wow.
That's amazing, man. I didn't know that. That's really cool.
His last question is, was there ever a project you started and realized it wasn't for you?
Yeah, actually, that's a good question. I started working with these, I was a judge. The backstory is I was a judge on this Canadian Idol type show. And there were these 3 separate singers, and they all kind of became friends over the course of the competition. And so I ended up trying to work with 3 of them and doing a girl group thing. And we worked really hard at it, and it didn't work. And that was great. I learned so much from just, from it not working.
Dude, that's so true.
That happens all the time. Yeah.
That's so true. Whether you're writing a song or whether you're trying to produce a track, because trying to get to the finish line, you learn what worked and what didn't work if you're paying attention, hopefully.
Yeah. And then there was that moment where just, I was my whole heart is 100% into it, then it's just not, I can't do it. And I had to sort of leave it. And that was a hard decision, but it was, that's a good question.
It's funny that you talked about name dropping. Yeah, thanks to all the patrons, by the way, for the questions. If you want to ask any of our guests questions, that's one of the many things we do over there on the old Patreon.
Yeah.
I did see an interview with The Edge once where he was being asked. He's like, Bono has Bill Clinton in his phone and Jay-Z and Beyonce. They're like, who's the most famous person in your phone, to The Edge? And he just sort of tiredly said, Bono.
That's awesome.
So funny.
So people are gonna ask me who the famous people I know. I'm like, me and Dan Kanter text about Dave Matthews Band. Now we do a thing called Metal Madness where we take 16 tracks. Usually we take the guests' 2 favorite Metallica records. We pit them against each other. The best of 3 moves on to the next round to find out once and for all what the greatest song is between these 2. I had to cut a song. Because,
Justice has 9, right?
Yeah, I made the executive decision. You guys can, I guess, veto this if you want. I went ahead and cut Escape because and everyone knows that I love Escape.
Wait, Escape.
I love Escape too.
Because this is Lightning versus Justice.
Yeah, doesn't Justice have more songs?
Yeah, but Escape's not going to win, dude. So it had to go.
I just figured 8 versus 8, but.
Well, I couldn't think of one to cut.
I'll go with you.
I mean, should we have cut?
No, because Justice has 9.
Yeah.
Justice has 9, but that's okay.
But I wanted to keep all of the ones on Justice.
It's going to be a good time either way.
Because it was okay.
Yeah,
okay, because if we were going to cut something with Justice, it was probably going to have to either be Frayed Ends or Eye of the Beholder, and I can't cut those.
Yeah.
Did you guys ever figure out why they don't play Escape?
I don't think James likes it.
Because James hates it.
That's so crazy. Yeah, because he made that funny comment in San Francisco, right? Yeah.
Well, he made it. Yeah, he made it when they played it at the Orion Festival because they played Lightning in its entirety.
That's where it is.
Yeah.
He said something like, "Oh boy, don't say it."
I'm mixing it up.
And then at one of the 30th anniversary shows in 2011, Kirk and Lars start sort of jamming it, and James looks visibly annoyed.
Yeah, he looks annoyed.
And it's one of those songs
funny.
that they wrote because they felt pressure to write something that was kind of catchy, and I think they feel like it's artistically empty.
I love that song.
I love Escape.
Yeah.
Me too. Yeah.
Well, I did go ahead and cut that. I'm sorry,
okay.
dude.
That's okay.
Fine. No,
One
of
had to
course.
go.
That's good.
Of
That's
course.
good.
So everyone knows the rules. Best of 3. I always say this wrong. I'm such a dummy when it comes to shit like this. We're all going to vote, and the best
of three.
Best of three. That's
Yeah,
right.
That's
Okay.
correct. Yeah.
No, you guys, you're not a dumb. You guys speak so clearly and eloquently on your show. It's unbelievable how you guys do it. I'm so impressed.
That's
Even
why.
now,
Well,
speaking
thank
to
you
you
very
guys, I'm like,
much.
and I can't think of the words that I want to say. And you guys, it comes so naturally. I love it.
Eloquent
When I
is the
drive
word,
in my
yeah.
car, I'm joining the conversation. So it's really nice to actually. speak
Well,
to
we
you on
just
the
turn
phone.
our brains off the way you do with beer. So the best of three will win, and we actually have a jingle for this one that I'm going to usher us into now. Let's take it to the Metal Madness
Let's
corner.
do it.
Okay, so as I mentioned before, we are going to be doing this track for track minus Poor Escape had to go.
Okay.
And so then I ended up putting Frayed versus Dyers for the last tier.
Okay.
So let's just lead it off and start here with Fight Fire with Fire versus Blackened.
I know what Dan's going to say.
I got to go Blackened too, though. You're going to
Yeah,
say
me
Blackened,
too.
right?
I'm going to say Blackened too. Yeah.
Same.
That's
I think it's unanimous. Yeah. I love Fight Fire with Fire, but I mean Blackened.
I'll tell you what I will do. I mean, this isn't really part of the game. I'll take Fight Fire over Battery, though.
You would?
Yeah.
Huh.
What do you-
Not me.
No?
I think I go Battery as well.
Oh, cool. Fuck you guys.
I think I take Fight Fire over Hit the Lights.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
not over Sandman.
Yeah.
Ooh. What about
Yeah.
you, Ethan, with Sandman?
Sandman over what?
Over Fight Fire?
Fight Fire?
You know what? I'd probably take Sandman,
I
too.
think I'm going to take Sandman, yeah.
I never thought I'd say anything like that.
This
and
could
yet
be a
it's-
whole different Metal Madness.
yet
we
it's
could
true.
We could do a 10 against 10 and do opening tracks.
Shit.
Or it'd be 5 against 5, I guess.
I'm really surprised at my own feelings about this.
Wow.
Thanks a lot, Dan. All right, well, moving on. This
Okay,
one's going to be
yeah.
tough, too.
Dan is directing this episode, by
Dan
the
is
way.
musically directing this. Yeah. Put a
Right.
hit right here.
Yeah.
Ride the Lightning versus the other titular track, ... and Justice for All.
I'm going Ride the Lightning.
All right, Dan.
Justice.
Ooh.
Clint, the decision maker.
The astute Metal Up Your Podcast listener will know that I'm going to have to go with Ride the Lightning.
Oh, there
Yeah.
it is.
But I
knew
love
you would
Injustice
say
for All
that.
so
Of
much.
course.
I love the song
Of
so
course.
much.
This is the tough part. This is like you're presented with a plate of two of your favorite foods.
You
the
know
top
what?
two, and you have to choose one. You want this Thai food or you want this sushi? Whatever.
And as much as I honestly, I hate to give credit to a Mustaine song, but he did have a hand in that, and it's great. And I can remember the guitar solo to Ride the Lightning. I can't really remember the solo to Injustice for All. The fast solo.
right,
The
yeah.
fast one. Yeah, fair enough.
Although when I
Yeah.
hear it, I love it. Kurt, get out of here. Did Kurt come in here to song? Okay, For Whom the Bell Tolls versus Eye of the Beholder.
Dan, you want to go
For
first? on this
me,
one?
sure, Bells.
I'm going
It's
Bells.
Bells,
It's
yeah.
Bells. Yeah. Eye of the Beholder's great.
Totally great.
What I want to know is why they don't play that song.
I know it's a rad song.
Right?
One of my favorite parts of that song is the straight to swung time in that song. You know, and just that yeah, just that digga 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 dun dun digga dun and then
Right. I just love that intro. I think that intro is so heavy.
Oh, it's so good.
Okay. The Battle of the Ballads. Fade to Black versus
Wow.
One. Ooh. I'm gonna have to go One. Just for
Me too.
yeah. That's hard, man.
That is tough.
It's hard. That's
I'm
a
still,
really tough
I'm
one.
still thinking about it.
But you
because
know
Fade
what
to
about-
Black is
Yeah.
Fade to Black is so good.
But Fade to
it doesn't matter. You guys already said one.
Let me say something that's mildly incendiary about this. Fade to Black. You guys know how much I love Fade to Black, right? Do I have to disclaim this anymore?
you don't.
Okay, listen.
No, I know.
Fade to Black almost isn't a real song.
It doesn't. Well, it doesn't have a chorus.
There's no chorus. It's just these two verses and an outro and a great solo. Whereas One has this
one
intricate
is a full
intro.
opus. Like,
It really is.
Oh,
it's an
yeah.
opus. It's like a Genesis
it's like a
song.
suite.
yeah. Okay.
Totally. And it's
Yeah.
like so totemic. It's like Stairway to Heaven.
Yeah. Yeah. It is.
It's getting
Exactly.
bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah. Then my vote, I would have cast for one. So that's unanimous.
Okay, Trapped Under Ice versus The Shortest Straw.
Ooh, I'm going shortest straw on this one.
Dan?
Shortest straw.
Okay.
Yeah. What would you say?
I think I would have gone Shortest
Trapped
Straw.
Under Ice is awesome. A great song. I mean, I don't think we need to keep
Yeah.
saying that. This song is awesome. We know that Trapped Under Ice is fucking great.
But it is weird that it's really common that people put Lightning way high. But the deep cuts are some of the least liked deep cuts.
Trapped Under Ice, Escape. Yeah.
Trapped Under Ice and Escape.
Yeah.
People, you know what I mean? People will take these more, but they like this record more because the hits on it, the pound for pound ones, are just fucking mind blowers. All right.
I still love Lightning front to back, no, of course, but
of course,
of course, please.
But I think I like the second half of Puppets as much as I like the first half. But,
yeah, same. Yeah, well,
but Creeping Death is on Ride the Lightning.
I know. So that almost trumps everything.
Yeah.
All right. And speaking of Creeping Death, and I thought this was a fitting match: Creeping Death versus Harvester of Sorrow.
Ooh. Yeah.
I mean,
I'm going Creeping Death.
Yeah, I think this is going to be unanimous. Yeah, I mean, Harvester of Sorrow ain't nothing to fuck with. In the words of the Wu-Tang Clan.
Can you believe that they wrote Creeping Death in 1984?
I know.
And that it's just still one of the greatest moments of their show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
175,000 years later.
Insane.
Battle of the Instrumentals. The Call of Cthulhu versus To Live Is to Die. I'm going To Live Is to Die.
Ooh, man, this is a tough one. I love both. I'm gonna go To Live Is to Die.
What would you have said, Dan?
Well, it's an easy one for me because I got the Binge and Purge box set when it came out. So, I watched that Seattle '89 show so much on VHS.
Yeah.
And they doodle it. So To Live Is to Die.
Okay,
sure.
unanimous.
Yeah.
However,
but I love them both.
I love them both too. And I think that Call of Cthulhu was the right choice for S&M opener.
Right. Yeah.
And it won a fucking Grammy.
Man, could you imagine them opening S&M 2 with Orion?
Oh my God.
Oh man.
It'd be so sick.
It'd be so
Dan, are you going to S&M 2?
I can't.
Oh yeah, your kid.
Due that week, and I wanted to go to Dave Matthews like a few nights later. Oh, I forgot to tell you. I asked Lars if the random song, like the deeper cuts in the set, are because they're practicing them for the symphony, and he said no. We just wanted to fucking play them.
Oh really?
Yes.
So that's Unforgiven 3. That's No Leaf Clover. That's Disposable Heroes.
I mean, Well, if that's the case,
I mean, who knows if that's the truth or not?
Well, he might not.
That's what he said to me.
Yeah, I mean, he may not.
I don't know. I don't know why he would lie about it.
I mean, but it might be a thing for
it's just misdirection,
or just the mystery of like, what are they going to play?
I think it's entirely possible, dudes, and this is going to bum someone out. Maybe I think it's entirely possible they're just going to play S&M.
Well, I mean, no, they did announce that it's going to be compositions post S&M.
Yeah,
or like new new stuff that.
But I bet it's going to be minimal though. Maybe
I'd
a
imagine
handful.
Maybe The Day That Never Comes.
No, I don't even. I think it's gonna. I think it's gonna be like Halo and Fire and Moth.
There'll definitely be some off of Hardwired.
Yeah.
Oh, Spit Out the Bone would be so good with
that would be great.
Bannon, like those would be such good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love the idea of all those like violin players having a
totally.
Okay, and the last two in round one, the Freydens of Sanity versus Dyer's Eve. I got to give it up for Dyer's Eve. Dear Mother, Dear Father, Earth.
Dan?
Yeah, Dyer's Eve.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I'm going Dyer's Eve as well. Not that it makes a difference.
Poser.
Yeah.
Always following the crowd, bro.
Yeah, man. Come on, leave me alone, man.
Okay, we move on into round two. This is when it starts to get juicy.
Okay.
Oh boy, Blackened versus Ride the Lightning.
Woo! I want Dan to start this one.
Blackened.
Right away. Blackened.
I can already tell Dan's going to try to take Blackened.
Blackened versus Ride the Lightning. I mean, I'm going Blackened.
I got to also go Blackened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, sorry, Ride the Lightning, but you're a badass song, but.
I think I know what's going to happen here, too. For Whom the Bell Tolls, a classic, bona fide staple.
Sure.
Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun. And the one song I would elect to play with them if they asked me to, because it's the only one I know I could play without making an ass out of myself. Dan, if they bring you up on stage, you're Lars' best friend now because you guys talked about wine in Copenhagen, and they bring you up, what's the song you're going to choose to play with them that you know you can do?
That you know that you can get through and like,
because we know this, we can all play guitar. There's no problem there.
Sure,
but
that's
I'm not
a good question.
But I'm not talking about. Oh, I don't know if I can play it. I can play all this shit if I have the time and I have a million chances to do it. I'm talking. They pull you up on stage tomorrow.
Yeah, that's a good question. I would play. Oh my God. I mean, one I know is like November Rain, or like Stairway. Like I've been playing that forever, but I love playing Disposable Heroes.
You can rock that right hand. You got that kind of right hand dexterity.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I've been practicing it. Then over the last month, I decided last 3 months, I wanted to play Blackened with all downstrokes.
That is, dude, that's a tough thing to do, man. I mean, it's easy to do, alternate picking or whatever, but all downstrokes the way James does it. I mean, it's no joke. My hand is supposed to be.
It was tough. I was getting like forearm massages because I was
on a gurney.
Gonna get carpal tunnel from doing it.
They will have a gurney. They will have a gurney at the Julia Michaels show.
Yeah. Even Master of Puppets to play all downstrokes the whole song, even the
dude. The hardest part to play downstrokes in Puppets is
that was actually, if I ever met, I have all these questions. If I ever met James again, that I would ask him. And one of those questions is, I always wondered when he went away, to recovery for that year, and he came back. Like for me, the first thing as a guitar player that goes is my downstrokes. As far as like technical things, like all my sort of chicken picking, banjo licks, like I can always come back to that easily, but I need to take like a month of building up those downstrokes. Yeah, man. And no I wondered in that year off if he, when he came back, is that something that he, was easy?
I think.
What do you think?
I think he had to work on it. There's a, I don't know if it's the making of Hardwired or the making of Death Magnetic, but it's him in the control room with Fiddleman. Yeah. And he's like, they're testing out tones and, because he does all his rhythm shit in the control room. Right. And he's saying something like, wow, this one's very, he's like, this one's very down picking. He's like, I got to get back in shape for
downstrokey, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. You'll hear him say stuff.
You are a deep dude. You go deep on Metallica.
There's another clip.
I don't know if it's that I'm that deep or if I'm that much of a fucking loser.
I think it's on the making of Hardware. There's one where he's looking at Kirk and talking about some riff, and I love this term because I've used it forever too, just being a punk rock fan. But he's talking about playing all downstrokes, and he goes, "I'm just Ramones in it." Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
That's always one of my favorite analogies of downstroking.
Because Dan, you can appreciate this especially, is like we all have a lot of lingo because this is how we have to communicate with each other as like side guys and music directors and shit. I love that they never really had to learn. They have their own language. Yeah. Like when Lars talks about Enter Sandman, he's like, put the tail. Chop that guy up and put the tail, you know what I mean? Yeah. He's like calling it the tail.
Yeah, totally.
Right.
It's funny.
I know.
Okay, well, I don't know what just happened. We're talking
about what song to play on stage with Metallica.
Oh, yeah. Did we ever? Yeah. So you would choose one?
I think I would choose one.
That is that is bold. Ambitious. Ethan, what you've said this before, right?
I think I may have said I chose Room in the Bell Tolls.
Yeah.
Just because it's not much of a thinker, as opposed to a One or a Damage Inc. or whatever. And you get to experience what it's like for them with that crowd just singing everything.
I thought you were going to say with that crab walk.
The crab walk.
What about on drums even?
On drums?
Ooh, good question.
Yeah.
Good
on
question.
Drums, I think, dude, I would love to get up there and play Orion with them.
Ooh.
Wow.
It's got a nice groove. That'd be fun.
Yeah, it's super fun. It's not, I mean, if they pull me on stage tomorrow and I was like, Dyer's Eve, I'd be like, shit, why did I just say that?
Did we vote yet on Bells versus One?
Nope.
I'm gonna go One.
Oh, did we?
Me too.
Okay, I'm going One as well.
Yeah.
Sorry, Bells.
Bells is so dope, but one really is like an opus. I mean, it's just a masterpiece. Okay. Shortest Straw versus Creeping Death.
Creeping Death.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go Creeping.
Yeah, that is tough, but I'm saying Creeping Death as well. Shortest Straw. Yeah. It's again, you feel like you just bitch slapped your friend or something. Like, damn it, I just left Shortest Straw behind.
To Live Is to Die versus Dyer's Eve.
Ooh. I'm gonna say, God, To Live Is to Die is so good. I'm going Dyer's Eve.
I'm gonna go To Live Is to Die.
I'm going Dyer's Eve.
Oh, there we go.
It's a coup. You guys talked about this before.
We did. We texted.
On the side.
So I'm surprised to see that out of the remaining 4, there's only one Lightning tune.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it did get one cut with Escape, so there was basically like 9 songs versus 7 songs.
I shouldn't have cut Escape on retrospection, but Escape,
I still don't think it would make it. It
wouldn't have made it.
No, it would have made it.
Okay, Blackened versus One.
Ooh, shit.
Oh, really?
I'm gonna have to go 1. I'll lead us off here.
Dan, what are you thinking, man?
Well, I mean, Blackened is one of my favorite Metallica songs, but I think 1 is one of the 3 most quintessential Metallica songs.
Yeah.
And so just for all time's sake, for me personally, it's 1.
I'm saying 1 as well. As a massive fan of Blackened, often my number 1 favorite song.
No, but Dan's right though, because think about it. It's got the great James Clean. It's got the sensitive stuff. It's got their. I mean, I still don't really understand what's happening in the classical kind of section in the top.
It's weird.
It's like 17 guitars.
Totally.
Dan, do you struggle with that section? Like, what's going on? I don't even know what they're doing, really.
Not when I play it. I've never counted that song out. That'd be interesting to actually like count out what's going on. But 1 for me too, like not, the drum thing. Like I practiced for, in my parents' basement doing that double kick thing forever. And the solo, like I know I don't know why people give Kirk Hammett a hard time. I love Kirk Hammett.
I do too.
I love his solos. I don't get it. But anyway, I love the solo to 1. And when I was growing up, like 1 for me is like, like Beat It. Like that's the solo that made me want to fucking learn how to shred.
Right, yeah.
Like being able to play that was like a major milestone. Like that's what I would break out at house parties when someone's like, play something cool.
Play something crazy.
Yeah.
Wait, are you kidding me? You're telling me it wasn't Crash Into Me? Because that's what it was for me.
That was in university when I'd bring a girl to my room.
I'd say that's when the girls
like
my
lava lamp.
Play me a song. Get that blacklight poster going.
It's a glow in the dark fucking weed leaf poster. Okay, Creeping Death versus Dyer's Eve.
I'm going Creeping Death.
I think I got to go Creep too.
Creep. Yeah.
We are doing a lot of agreeing.
Yeah.
So is it now Creep? No, Dyer's Eve is still in it. No. What's left? Creep in 1.
Now it's Creep in 1 to decide it all once and for all.
And I'm not surprised by that.
Yeah, it does make sense.
Yeah, Creeping Death versus 1.
I could see it being either 1 versus Blackened or 1 versus Creep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Woo.
I'll lead us off and just say 1 because I've been inspired by Dan's passion for it.
Okay. Dan?
Well, Creeping Death is my favorite Metallica song, but 1 is for me, it's the Metallica song. Like, I know I would keep talking about it, but that moment in the show when it's quiet and it's like, what song's gonna be next? And then that like the war sort of thing starts.
Yeah.
Like, that is like almost for me as good as the beginning with the
Yeah.
Yeah. It sounded like you were doing Immigrant Song for a second. Like that's the Led Zeppelin podcast.
I'm a terrible offender. Yeah. What's the that Clint? Yeah, you know what I'm saying.
Oh yeah. I still don't even
Thank
really
you.
know it though.
Ecstasy of Gold?
Yeah, the Ennio Morricone.
Ecstasy of Gold. Yeah.
Wow, look, who knew you were such a beautiful whisperer.
Oh, whisperer.
Or whistler.
Whistler. No, that was me whispering.
Sorry. Okay, well,
Hey,
there
Clint,
we
I have
go.
a secret for you.
1 wins it.
All right, 1.
Congratulations.
I'm surprised, but I'm not surprised. Like that seems like the obvious choice. But
It seems like the obvious choice if you ask even maybe a somewhat cash fan.
But if you ask someone like, what's the best Led Zeppelin song, there are a million. Like I would never like the answer. I think if I was hired by Rolling Stone magazine, the answer is Stairway to Heaven.
Absolutely.
You know, like even though that is the obvious answer, like I think 1 is Metallica's like greatest.
I think there. I could entertain an argument that Kashmir might be better than Stairway,
especially the Puff Daddy version,
especially P Diddy
from the Godzilla soundtrack. That's right.
Yeah.
Well, I think also too, it's hard to not get caught up in the difference between your favorite song and the best song.
That's what I agree.
You know, like
I've thought many times listening to 1, this is the greatest Metallica song that they've ever written.
Or Puppets maybe.
Because it's so complicated.
Yeah.
And they land it so well.
Totally.
And it tells that story so well. Like everything about it works. Because the thing about Stairway to Heaven is the lyrics don't really make any sense. It doesn't really tell a cohesive story that you can sink your teeth into.
Yeah.
1 comes with the whole the Donald Trumbo, the story and the film and this war veteran, and it evokes a lot of creepy atmosphere. It's it really knocks me out that they wrote a song that good.
Yeah,
when they were so
absolutely.
young too.
I know, they were in their 20s when they did that.
That's so insane. I know. I hate knowing that. I'm so old.
Dan, thank you so much, man, for taking the
Yeah,
time. I
dude.
know
Oh
you
my
just got
gosh.
off the plane. It's such a pleasure to finally have you on the show. We've all been friends for a couple of years now.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is
Thank
awesome,
you
man.
guys.
Heck
This is
yeah,
so
dude.
much fun. This is all I want to do every day is talk about Metallica. So
Well,
it's been such a great time
I mean,
talking to you guys.
if you move to Nashville, you could just join us every week.
Nice. At the Red Door talking about Metallica.
That's right, yeah.
So what's
Yeah.
next for you? Where can people find what you're up to? What's going on in Dan Kanter's world other than having a third child, which is awesome?
Right on. Thank you. I'm actually taking, as of August, I'm taking 2 months off from any work for not just the new baby, but, chasing around my 2 other kids while my wife cares for our new baby. So I'm actually kind of winding things down right now, but I'm starting this week with a great new group called the Command Sisters.
Okay.
And they're on Instagram. They don't even have music out yet, but they're like literally in the very beginning of their career, and I'm
Wow.
going in to do rehearsals with them. So I'm super excited about that. And
That's cool.
yeah, that's where I'm at. But I'm excited to take a break. I'm so bad at taking a break.
Yeah,
you
me
know? I
too.
just,
Yeah.
yeah. It's just trouble.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, we appreciate you, dude, and I'm sure
Thank you, guys.
Metallica community at large enjoyed hearing all this stuff and your
Oh,
insight and
I
all
hope
that.
So.
Yeah,
What an
man.
honor to be on the show after all this time. I was telling my wife, I wonder how many hours I've spent listening to your voices.
Probably more than my wife has.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, much more.
Nice. Yeah.
Well, Dan, thank you so much, dude, and I hope
Thank
our
you,
paths
guys.
cross again soon, man. Take care.
Me too. Right on, you guys. Keep in touch. Talk soon.
Ooh, yeah.
What a guy.
What a mensch.
What a Canadian.
A super mensch.
He really is. We can't say enough great things about Dan Kanter. I mean, becoming friends through the podcast and hanging out with him a few times, and Clint and his wife got to go to the show. Just a great dude with such an amazing resume and so much he's accomplished as a musician over the years.
Yep, I agree. Muchos love to Dan Kanter. Thanks so much, dude. And we're going to leave you with my cover of Come As You Are, which I also tagged on some Black Sabbath Planet Caravan.
Yeah.
Again, Cover Hour Black and Volume 3 drops August 1st, but you got to be a patron to get it. And with that, I'll just go ahead and say peace.
Adios.
Come as you are, as I want you to be, as a friend, as an old enemy. Take your time, hurry up, the choice is yours, don't be late. Take a risk, as a friend, as an old memory, a memory. Come, dust and mud, soap and bleach, as I want you to be, as a trend, as a friend, as an old memory, 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 memory. And I swear that I don't have a gun. No, I don't have a gun. No, I don't have a gun. Memory, We sail through endless skies. The stars shine like eyes. The black night sighs. The moon in silver trees falls down in tears. Light of the night. The earth, a purple blaze in sapphire haze, in orbit always. While down below the trees, bathed in cool breeze, silver starlight breaks down from night, and so we pass on by the crimson eye of great God Mars as we travel the universe.
Advisor, what would you say? Then I would say delete that.